Welcome to You Talk Sports. Tonight, we have a fantastic matchup between the Milwaukee Bucks and the LA Clippers about to tip off. Here's what you can expect if you're watching this video. I'm going to tell you exactly what's about to happen in this game. And you're also going to get to hear from some of our fans that are joining us here on Zoom with what they expect to see in this game. And if you've already watched this game, you're going to get to see if we got it right. You're going to get to hear what other people are saying about this game. So we're going to be covering every minute in this game today. We're going to be going over all the big plays, all the replays, all the turning points in this game, all the big shots in this game. You'll get to hear all the different fan perspectives on this game here tonight. And at the end, you'll see, did we get it right or did we get it wrong? And by the way, if the Clippers win this game, because I'm predicting that Milwaukee's going to roll even without Giannis, but if the Clippers win this game, I'm going to give a hard take to give credit to Khwai and Harden and the group over in LA because I've been saying that they are pretenders. And this will be the game for us to see. So we're going to be getting takes from all of the fans that are joining us here tonight at You Talk Sports. And we're going to be going over the highlights of this game. If you've already watched this game and you're checking this in to see what your thoughts were, maybe some of the things that you were thinking to yourself during the game, you're going to hear us saying, and that'll kind of validate things. Maybe you'll get some new insights in the game. Or maybe you're tuning into tonight's broadcast after the game because you want to see what happened. You want to see the main moments. You want to see what the fans have to say. So we're going to be doing the game cast throughout today's game. And so that you can see everything happening play by play as it happens. And we're going to be going over the highlights of today's game. We're going to be taking takes from everyone who's here on this game. And also, we're going to get everyone's first take on something that's hot and new in sports. And just to give you a little hint, I'm wearing my Bucks shirt today. My take plans to be on Mike Evans and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But here's what I expect to see happen in this game tonight. I expect that Milwaukee will continue the role that they're on and start to assert themselves, that their defense will be improving under Doc Rivers, and that we're going to see a motivated team, an inspired team that is gearing up for the playoffs, that's trying to figure out their best lineups under Doc Rivers. And so that's the progress of what I'm looking to see in this game. Here tonight. Let's go around the horn and get takes from our crew that are here tonight. Good to see you, Andrew and Alex and Cameron and Alvin. I'm going to put into the Zoom chat here the link for us over on YouTube. Make sure that you also are viewing us over there. And remember that this show is for our audience. So let's start with Andrew. Andrew, what do you expect to see happen tonight?
I disagree with you, Greg. I think Giannis not being in there is going to be crucial. I hate the Clippers. I hate rooting for the Clippers. I hate James Harden. With that being said, they're playing great ball, and that big three is as good as any big three in the league. Throw Russ in there as well. I know a lot of people love to hate on Russ, but he gives great energy for them. I think I like the Clippers tonight, and I think I like the Clippers to make a little bit of a run in the West.
Interesting. Well, I look forward to getting more into that as to why you see them being a contender in the West. There's really four teams at the top of the West right now. I haven't really laid eyes on the Clippers yet. I want to wait until I do tonight to really see what they're about. I'm curious to see who is playing for the Clippers as well. I think Westbrook might be out tonight. Cameron, what do you expect to see happen in tonight's game?
Yeah, I was you just mentioned Westbrook. I was curious to see how the Clippers would play with James Harden run the point guard and then hopefully seeing Bones Highland. He used to play at Denver. He is an exciting prospect coming into the league. I expect him to get some more minutes tonight. But I agree with Andrew though. It's going to be hard for the Bucks to win this game without the Clippers. The Clippers have actually been surging. They're one of my dark horse teams coming out of the West. And I have them having a deep playoff run as well. They've got one of the better records since the new year. And they still have James Harden, Paul George, and Khwai Leonard playing tonight. And that's the other thing, too. Khwai, a lot of people, when, I know the MVP discussion this season should only be discussed between three guys, but you really can't sleep on Khwai Leonard. He's been having a great year this year. The reason why he is the lead of all that stacked star power on the team, he is still the number one leader. When the ball is at the end of the game, or when it's at the end of the game, they'll look to have Khwai to have the ball in his hands. So I'm excited to see Khwai hoop tonight.
Yeah, you make a good point about Kawhi being the go-to guy on this team. Even though it's a superstar-laden team, it's really important that everyone knows their roles, that a team has a clear leader and a go-to guy, and Kawhi is clearly that guy. He's the only one with a ring on this team, and he's the one I think that's able to get everyone else to fall into place. I was researching this game before it tipped off, and saw that Westbrook is coming off the bench this year. He's only averaging about 14, 5 and 4. So he hasn't been that impactful in this role and for this team yet. So I don't think he'll be missed too much. And I'm really excited to see what Harden is doing. As a Harden hater, being from Boston, I loved seeing the Clippers get off to a really slow start when Harden got over there. But it seems like they're hitting their groove. Let's go next to Alvin. What do you expect to see happen in this game tonight, Alvin?
The LA Clippers to run away with this game, even with Westbrook not being in the game with a fractured hand. I think the Clippers have more than enough firepower to win this game tonight. With them being in the race as one of those 5 in the Western Conference, I think they're going to be right there.
Yeah. Do you think they can make a run, or how far do you think the Clippers can go in this year's playoffs, Alvin?
I think the Clippers can definitely make a run to help knock out one of those little young pup teams, either the OKC or the Minnesota Timberwolves. One of those two will not be at the end in the 1 and 2 spot. So Denver is on their heels, and the Clippers are right there with them. I think the Clippers are going to catch one of those teams.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I think once they run into Jokic, I think they'll run out of gas. They don't match up well against him. But I think that their playoff experience will really pay off for them if they can stay healthy. If they lose Kawhi or Paul George, it's a whole nother story. And that's been the story of their playoffs for some time now. All right, let's go next over to Alex. Alex, our Wisconsin guy, what do you feel the Bucks have to do to be able to compete or win this game tonight?
They gotta hit their threes, especially without Giannis playing. I know that historically, the last couple of years, the Bucks live and die by the three. I think kind of like the Celtics, but the Celtics actually make them more consistent, as evident yesterday, which was it was incredible. I've never seen a performance like that in a while. But sticking with this game, Bucks got to make their threes. I disagree, Greg. I think the Bucks lose. But, obviously would love for them to win. Winning their 6th in a row since the All-Star break would be nice. But without Giannis, without Middleton, I just look for them to play good defense like they have been. I think they're ranked 2nd in net defense since the All-Star break and 7th in offense. So they're trending upward. When all is said and done, when they're fully healthy, I think they are the 2nd best team in the NBA. That might be a bit of a homer take, but so be it. Real quick on the Clippers side of things, I think the Clippers ceiling is being the best team in the West. I could see them winning a championship. That starting 5 is one of the best, and you got Norm Powell coming off the bench, which I don't know if he might have switched with Westbrook, but either way, even Westbrook coming off the bench or Norm Powell is just a great punch to get off the bench, especially come playoff time.
Yeah, some good points there. And, the way I look at this is at some point in the playoffs, Giannis is going to get into foul trouble. The Bucks are going to have to prove that they can play without him. And this is a great test for them. Dame is supposed to be a superstar. This is supposed to be a team with 2 superstars. And so, I expect to see Dame lead this team and compete. It's a great opportunity for him to step up. Will they have enough firepower in the end? They might just get outshot by Kawhi and Paul George. If those guys are hitting, they can beat anybody at full strength. But but Dame, I expect to see Dame shoot a lot. I expect to see him have the ball in his hands a lot, and really put up big numbers here today. If we're looking at player props at all. And interesting to note that right up until this afternoon, when I made this graphic, here it is behind me here with the spread, the Bucks were still favored at home. So if you got this early, you got tremendous value before they announced that Giannis was out. And that's one of the keys to betting NBA, is often to try to get in on these things early like this. Alex, did you have something else to add on that?
Yeah, real quick. Again, with the defense trending upward with the Bucks, especially with Giannis being out, again, making the threes and playing defense tonight. I think that over under was at 223, 222.5. I really like the under tonight. I believe the Clippers also, if someone correct me if I'm wrong, they are coming off a back-to-back, so you might see a little bit more rest in there for the Clippers, but I would lean under tonight and taking the Clippers to win with the points.
Got it. All right. Yeah, let's have everybody put into the YouTube chat what you're taking in tonight's. I'll do the same. This way it's all documented there. And if you're watching us on YouTube or watching the replay, we'd love to have your picks for this game. Andrew, what do you think in terms of the spread and the over-under for tonight?
Yeah, agreeing with what Alex said. The Clippers are coming off a back-to-back. James Harden went 0 for 10 yesterday. So tough for him to do worse than what he did yesterday. I like the under. I'm taking the under in this game. I did have a question for Alex. If we're talking defense on the Bucks, I'm a big Sixers fan, and I was devastated when the Sixers traded Patrick Beverley to the Bucks. I feel like he's a big part of the 6 straight wins since the All-Star break. He's a big culture guy. I know there was a little bit of beef with him and Dame. That seems to have been squashed. What's your take on Patrick Beverley and how he's fit with the squad?
Yeah, I mean, just based on the names at the deadline that I was hearing the Bucks were going after, I did not hear anything about Patrick Beverley. And I think if you listen to his podcast and kind of what he was saying around the deadline, he was also surprised to get traded and it didn't seem like he was too happy. I mean, I gave my take a couple weeks ago why Milwaukee is such a great city, but I don't think that opinion is shared by many. So I don't think he was too happy to come to Milwaukee, but he is a competitor, right? So that's evident, and he's happy to be on a team that he thinks can compete for a championship. What I think about him and Portis, you don't want to fuck with them, right? Those are two guys that will kick your ass. So I think there's some intimidation there, but Beverly knows, he's been around for a while. He knows how to defend that perimeter, which hopefully will help if the Bucks see Boston, because Boston's lights out from 3. But yeah, we're just waiting to see him gel a little bit more, and I love it so far. We'll see what happens. It's only been 7 games, but I love it.
Yeah, Beverly could give them that defensive player they've been missing since PJ Tucker left. I think it's less about what he brings on the court and more about just him overall, kind of a culture in the locker room type of thing, is what I see in the Pat Beverly move. I don't expect him to get that many minutes. Speaking of player guards coming off the bench, there's a guy on the Clippers that has always intrigued me, Terrence Mann. Mann and Maxey from Philly came in the league at the same time. Both their rookie years, I kind of saw them as about the same. Like, you could see flashes of Maxey in the playoffs, and Terrence Mann had those moments in that playoff series his rookie year as well. That was a series when Kawhi was out, and it was and the Clippers made a little run with Paul George and Terrence Mann, but it just hasn't developed for Mann the way it has for Maxey. Have any of you guys seen anything from Terrence Mann, and have any takes on Terrence Mann at all? I see Andrew raising his head there. Cameron, what have you seen from Terrence Mann?
Yeah, well, he's still a terrific ball player. What a great asset for the Clippers to have coming off the bench. He's just, of course, his minutes were going to get reduced when they announced that Russell Westbrook was coming into town, and then for sure, right, when they said James Harden was got traded into town as well. So, I mean, he's just not getting the same minutes, but when he's out there, man, he's a great productive player. He has one of the highest plus minuses on the team. And also his younger brother, Trey Man, has also been on the rise in the league as of late.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't even realize that was his brother. And it's interesting to me that, that the Clippers, if you're going to win now, Man might be somebody you trade for that fifth starter to try to get over the hump. Because I think that's generally what people assess the Clippers is if healthy, the four, potentially four Hall of Famers on the roster, and then Zubac in there is just in there to rebound. I think Zubac actually plays that role perfectly for this team, and that this is a team that's nicely built around their four guys. And so it's interesting if they were going to try to win now that they might try to deal Terrence Mann for something. They didn't. They're sitting with Mann. And let's just take a look at the injury report here. Of course, Chris Middleton has been out. He is expected to be back soon. I was watching some research on him. He was questionable for this game. They don't want to rush him back, but he did come with the team. I think on their road trip that's coming up here soon. They need to get Chris Middleton back. Chris Middleton's, it's not just him missing games, but his performance when he has been playing is his lowest since 2017. In his pre-All-Star days, he needs to get back up to a championship level if they're going to be able to compete at that level. So it's shaping up to be an exciting game. Hopefully we get a buzzer beater like we have for a lot of the games. Not a game like my Celtics on Sunday where it was pretty much over by the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, I didn't understand the defensive tactic at first for the Warriors. I thought Jaylen Brown, I always thought I get that him and Brown struggled against the Warriors in the finals, but they're still great shooters. You gotta get a hand in their face. I don't know what they were doing, sagging, and then they just got smoked.
Yeah, I'd love if you're it's great having a hometown person here who maybe is been into that story more than the rest of us. The news flash I saw was just a soundbite on a meme from Draymond Green saying, "Oh, we put that game plan into place about 15 minutes before tip-off, and I just went with it." Which to me, is a little bit throwing your coaching staff under the bus. But clearly there were many times Draymond was there. All he had to do was put his hand up. Why would you, if you're going to be there, why don't you at least put your hand up? I don't really get it. What are you hearing over there, Cameron?
Well, it was just no effort on defense, and also I get that Porzingis was out and there's injuries in the game, but man, the Warriors have Wiggins out and Podziemski, who are not the defensive leaders of the team, but two big impact players on the defensive end on the floor when they're out there. So they were both injured, not out there. Curry had an unusual shooting night. So did Clay. Shots weren't going in. And also that was not really a back-to-back, but their second game in 3 days. They're on a road trip right now. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes in the NBA, you get spanked, and the Celtics have been one of the best teams this season and have proven it. That's their third game this season with a 50-plus point win. That's never been done in NBA history. I'm not too worried about that loss because 2 years ago when the Warriors won when they won the championship, they lost by 50 to the Grizzlies in that series, and they came back the next game and closed them out. So I'm not going to let one game dictate the whole season. I expect them to bounce back. They've been surging as of late. And Celtics, that's just the hottest team in the league right now.
Yeah,
Cameron,
they are really hot. That's the third time they've won by 50 points this year. I don't think that's ever been done before in the NBA. Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had another take on a different game from Sunday. Last week, we had a lot of people on here talking about how the Mavericks were in a position to potentially make a run at the Western Conference Finals, and Luka and Kyrie and blah, 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 blah. They got smoked at home by the Sixers without Joel Embiid. I say smoked at home. Sixers I think the game in the end was probably like a 6, 7 point game, but they were up big and in complete control. They had no one to turn to in the fourth quarter for offense. But last week, there were a lot of people on here talking about the Mavs making a Western Conference Finals run. And I think you and I were on the same page, Greg. I think the Mavs are more likely to be the 10 seed than they are to be the 6 seed and get out of that play-in game.
Yeah, I'm with you. That was a really bad loss. I tried to watch some of it, but it wasn't that entertaining. And this I heard him say something in the game that this is exactly the same point this team was at last year. They were in the 6th seed last year. Kyrie came in, they fell apart down the stretch and completely missed the playoffs last year. So for all our Kyrie Irving fans who I don't think are here today, I would hope that if Dallas falls down to 9-10, if they fall from even to fall from 6 to 7, would be bad because now you're in the playoff game instead of surging up. But if they fall to 9 or 10, then I feel we have closed the book on Kyrie Irving as somebody you can win games with.
Are they gonna blame it on Kidd or Irving, you think, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. They kind of go hand in hand. It's Kidd's job to get Irving to play.
Right.
Kidd stepped up and wanted Irving back, which I think was a big mistake. And they both deserve to sink for that. And I love Jason Kidd as a player. He's one of my all-time favorite players. He's what I think every point guard should aspire to be in the NBA in terms of how he played as a player. But if they go that far, if they hold serve, or win a series this year, I'll own up and I'll give Kyrie his due. But I don't expect to see that happen. I think we're starting to see the beginning of the end here. They got pasted by Dallas on Friday. Dallas got pasted by the Celtics, and then they to lose to the Sixers. You just can't have that if you're going to make the playoffs and make a run. So let's look at tonight's prop board and just see what looks interesting. It's always, when a player like Giannis goes out, I always wonder what, does that mean? You would think Dame's over under for points should go way up, right? He's going to have to shoot. Is there value there? Has the market already adjusted for that or not? I think it'll be interesting to look at. What's the actual line at now? What do you guys have the actual game at right now as we're closing in on tip off here?
Clippers by 2.5. I think right now.
Clippers by 2.5. All right, so let's all put into the YouTube chat. I'm going to put mine in here. I'm still going to stick with my Bucks pick, Bucks plus 2.5, and the over. I almost always take the over on the games we're covering here because it just makes it more fun. But that's how you should probably be betting the under, because people like me drive up the over. And
I do the same thing, Greg. I always take the over.
No fun to bet an under,
Exactly.
That's why the smart money, it probably cleans up on us. And by clean up, I mean it's probably like 52-48.
I was going to say it's no fun losing money. So, might be no fun betting the under, but I like winning money.
Well, that's my theory. If I put it in the chat, it's essentially my bet with you guys that that I am that I don't have to even put any money on it. David, great to see you. I want to get your take of what you're expecting tonight. I put in if the Clippers win this game, I'm going to do a Harden highlight tribute. I'm going to give you all the best moments and best things that I've seen from Harden if they win this game. If they lose this game, then I expect that we can pile on these guys. Like if you can't beat Giannis without Giannis, I'm going to give Dame or whoever steps up for Milwaukee or Doc Rivers big props tonight in closing. And but if the Clippers win without Westbrook, Harden deserves his credit for that. What do you expect to see tonight, David? Hope your audio's no. We'll come back over to you. Yeah, let's go over to Ernest. Great to see you. What do you expect to see happen tonight, Ernest?
I would say for me, the only thing I want to see out of the Clippers is how are they able to actually play a game without Westbrook, because with Westbrook, even though he's not, he's not like a stat packer. He's not out there to have a lot of points or a lot of assists. He's out there to really be like a Patrick Beverly, but not an annoying person. Like he's really out there as um he's more of a mental person. Like he's out there to make sure everybody on the team is doing their job. And if he's not out there making sure everybody's doing their job, then how are they really as a team when it comes down to really say if they're down by a certain amount of points? How are they able to all come together and say, all right, we down by this many points. How can we get through this? Westbrook is that type of guy to be like, look, we down by this many points. Here's what we're gonna do. I don't feel as though anybody else on a team is gonna be like, all right, how are we gonna do this? Even though they got Paul George and Kawhi, I feel as though they're gonna try to shoot the Clippers out of the game for to be honest with you. So I feel as though for me, it's not really more about Milwaukee because we already see what Milwaukee is without Giannis or Dame or Chris Middleton or whoever's out right now. But as far as the Clippers, with this first, I would probably say if I'm correct, this is probably the first game that they've had under the big three without Westbrook. So we can see how they are without Westbrook on the court. Then this is probably like the blueprint of how teams will play them in the future. Now that Westbrook is out, he's going to be out for a little while. So that's what I see.
Yeah, so you mentioned the accountability factor for Westbrook, that he plays with an intensity level and holds others to that intensity level. It'll be interesting to see if there's any drop off in that tonight. Khwai Leonard, of course, is known for his defense and his leadership. So I don't expect there to be, Westbrook's stat line for this year is not that hot. I mean, he's only getting about 23 to 25 minutes a game. And I don't think he'll be missed at all. So this will be a good judge to see, how important is Westbrook to how this offense flows tonight. All right, so let's hop over to some of the player props and just look for where we might start to see some value in.
Y'all hear me now?
Oh yeah, there we go, David. Yeah, let's go ahead and get David's pregame.
First off, Greg, come on, a Buck shirt, Buccaneer shirt, really?
I'm giving my Mike Evans take tonight.
Wow. No, yesterday they didn't have Westbrook and it was a very bad offensive game. It was a slugfest. 89-88 against the T-Wolves. They were able to pull that off. You're talking about James Harden. He played probably his worst game that I can recall since maybe his Thunder days. He was 0 for 10 from the field. He had 4 points, all coming from the free throw line. So I expect a big bounce back game. They didn't have Westbrook yesterday. Ernest made some good points that I didn't really think of as Westbrook being that, the heart and soul of the team. So maybe that's why they struggled yesterday, and maybe they'll, hopefully they'll bounce back. I absolutely don't see James Harden having another dud the way he did yesterday. So I think the Clippers, especially with no Giannis, I like that 2.5. I think that's what I would, if I were to bet on the game, that's what I would be taking.
Yeah, Clippers to take the points. I think it almost seems too easy, too good to be true. Just looking at what David mentioned here. So last game out for the Clippers was at Minnesota. They won the game. It was that 1-point game. But Harden did not play well. Before that, they beat up on Washington before having 2 losses and then another win against Memphis. The Bucks, on the other hand, have been streaking. They've won 5 straight and look to continue their improvement since the All-Star break, since Doc Rivers coming over, since Patrick Beverly coming over. Interesting that Giannis is out tonight, kind of last minute. And as they continue to build their momentum. Let's hop over to some player props. Underdog, we're going to look at tonight. It's one of the sites that I use for this, and just look for some value here. Does anything stand out to anyone on the Kawhi? To me, this is kind of a sucker bet. Obviously, that's why they give you as great odds on it. We don't see, I think, one of the things with Giannis being out, we have to be cautious of a blowout. I think I would be hesitant to take any Clippers players to go over, because if we get a blowout, they could all be sitting. Nothing really stands out to me too much there. Feel free to raise your Zoom hand if you want to comment on any of these. Here is I like Lillard to have to get to 30. I feel like he almost gets to 30 always anyways. He's going to have to shoot a lot tonight, in my opinion. That looks like a great pick. I would expect him to come out shooting. Let's hear from Alex. What do you think on that?
Yeah, I agree with you there. Also, I like that half point double with that. What is that, a 1.75 multiplier or whatever? Yeah, I mean he's been trending in the right direction with assists too. And then in games where Giannis is out, he does average 9 assists. So you're kind of teetering along the line there. But I think with Giannis and Middleton out, your 2-3 or your number one scorer, your number 3 scorer, I think he might even get, closer into the 13, 14 assists. So I do like that play there too.
In the assists. So why do you see his assists going up with the other players going being out? If the team's worse, you think he's going to get more assists?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Like I had mentioned before, I think that he will be looking to dish the ball more, get more players involved, to account for the lack of scoring, from the missing scoring from Middleton and Giannis. And my point stems from Middleton being out for the last 2 weeks. You've seen his assist trend upwards. So my mindset is that, okay, Giannis is also going to be out. He's going to look to dish the ball more. He's also going to look to score, obviously. So
Yeah.
you got Brook Lopez in there still. I don't know who's going to defend Brook Lopez. The Clippers guy, who is it? What's his name?
Zubac.
Zubac. Yeah, I'm not very high on him. I've never been. That's a different conversation, but I think Lopez will have a good game tonight too.
Yeah, he's just a banger. Let's look at Lopez's numbers next. And if I ask a follow-up question, it doesn't necessarily mean I disagree. I'm kind of just wanting to hear everyone's thoughts on this. I love being open-minded to, different opinions, as long as it's not just a whim, like I have a gut feeling on something. That's something that we're trying to catch each other on here and really get into what's your rationale for this. But I think you mentioned Dame and assists. It's interesting, everything locked up here. They might be taking this off the board with us talking about it, of course. But I would expect Dame's going to have the ball in his hands a lot more. A lot of times the offense runs through Giannis. So if Dame has the ball more in his hands, then his assists are likely to go up. Will, great to see you. What do you expect to see happen tonight, Will?
So one thing that's super interesting, and there's actually statistics behind this, is when a superstar is out, you want to take that team. Super random. It's just something I've seen. It happens all the time. So definitely I love Milwaukee, and I'm just looking. I really like the idea of the first quarter. I think Dame's gonna come out and try to assert himself. So taking, I think it was over 10.5 rebounds, points, and assists. I think he's going to come out strong just because he's a one guy. So I love that one right there because he's going to come out. He's going to try to assert himself because he's kind of going to be the main scorer, I think. So I like that one a lot. And then there's a Brook Lopez 3.1. I love that because I think
we'll move on to Lopez next. Let's just check in on this. Yeah, as I look at this, I would agree with you. This 10.5 PRA, points, rebounds, assists. To me, he could score 10 points, let alone PRA. He's going to come out shooting and could easily have 10 points in the first quarter. I feel like he's gotten off. The last time I had Dame in a parlay, he had like 26 points in the first half. I think he was supposed to go over 30, and he didn't get over. But he comes out hot shooting a lot. From what I've seen. So I like that there. Everyone seems to be wanting to talk about Lopez. So let's hop down here and look at Lopez.
I'm smashing
David,
over 2 3-pointers. I'm smashing that one.
For sure smash the 2 3-pointers.
Yeah, I mean, that would mean he has to get to 3 3-pointers to win, right? Which is a lot. If you think they don't match up well inside, then they might go inside more to him. I mean, Zubac, he's a banger inside. I think he can handle Lopez inside, and that Lopez is going to wind up outside a lot more.
Will, I don't know if maybe I misheard you, but did you say there's like a stat to back up the no superstar thing? I just want to clarify, make sure I was.
Yeah, it's weird. People it's weird, like secondary guys like show up, So a lot of times when the superstar is missing, it might be a good idea to actually bet on that team.
But you said there's stats. That's why I'm asking where are you getting those stats from?
Just by watching. I don't know if I bet if you look it up, I bet there's something out there. But the superstar being out, the team actually wins more than half the time. I'll see if I can find something for you, David.
Hey,
I bet, yeah.
Greg,
Well,
Greg,
the weathermen are right more than half the time too, but I'm not sure.
Greg, could you scroll down and look at Malik Beasley too? Just to Will's point, a guy that could step up. Yeah, Malik Beasley is their hot shot 3-point shooter. I think he's a top 5 in the NBA actually in 3-point percentage. So that'll be an interesting one to look at. I think he's going to be chucking threes tonight.
Yeah, Beasley is an interesting, an interesting player on the Bucks that I feel like gets overlooked. Or maybe he's been out some, but I had Beasley on my fantasy team a few years ago when he was starting for Minnesota. And he put up good numbers. I mean, he could shoot, he could pass. When he gets minutes, he was doing everything. Here, he's really in kind of a 3-point specialist shooting role. He was in the 3-point shooting contest. So he'd be a guy I would look to step up and get some more shots, with Giannis going out. Basically, once they double team Dame, which is a no-brainer to do, right? Who's the guy that's going to get the ball swung to? If you're betting it's Beasley, to me, this is about his normal average. I don't know. We could easily hop over and look that up, but he should be at above his average. And above that in this rotation. Let's look at Lopez here. Yeah, we were talking about Lopez for his threes. Yeah, 3-3-pointers, rebounds and assists. That seems a little low to me. He's good for, they have just his rebounds at 5. I would bet his rebound. We kind of go over to the box score, right, and look at these team stats and compare these. A lot of times, I feel like people just go off of, that actually seems low or high, but you haven't looked up, what that player's been doing. And so let's hop in there and just see what these guys have been doing here as we look up the Milwaukee Bucks and kind of get into their team stats here. I don't know, I'm not in the right spot to fill out their this is roster, this is stats here. This is the stuff that I find really fun to look at, and I think it'd be fun for us all to look at together. So we were talking about Lopez. His regular rebounds are 5.4. I would have guessed that to been about 7. Right, so that's important to know. His assists are about here, so they're pinning him right at about where his average is. Let's see what Beasley has been doing. So Beasley has been his minutes. So someone's minutes are going to have to go up too, right? With Giannis out, obviously Portis will start, but then those minutes will roll up to somebody who's going to get those minutes.
Gallinari.
Who is it? Oh, Gallinari, who's new, right? We should see if there's any props on him. They could get him going tonight. Sometimes if you can get him on like a 3 points or something, right? Because maybe they have Gallinari down based on his season average being so low, we could get some real value. So here's Beasley. Yeah, so Beasley's for the season is at 11.5. They only have him at 12.5 for this game. That seems like some value there. Interesting. Remember the last time we watched the Bucks, Cameron Payne actually led them in scoring. I don't know if his minute. I mean, if the minutes go to whoever the best player is off the bench, I think he's their best player off the bench, and so maybe he could get going.
Payne got traded to Philly, Greg, for Beverly.
Oh, Payne is who they traded to Philly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where we saw Payne lead Philly.
Right.
That's what it was. Yeah, that's right. Glad you mentioned that. All right, so then let's so this is the Bucks. Let's go back over to our player props here. So our game is set to tip off at 8. We're going to continue with our pregame analysts here. Then we're going to get into our 1-minute takes, and then we're going to do some fantasy football. We're not going to be doing a full draft tonight. We are going to be doing a full draft tomorrow night. If you're interested to continue with the mock drafts tomorrow night, we might even do the full draft over on Underdog tomorrow. Depends how many people, if we have enough people. And what we are going to do tonight, in case anybody wants to start thinking ahead, is we're going to put you in this spot here. So you had number 1 overall pick. You took CMC, or really doesn't matter. You could take whoever you wanted there. And then it's coming back around to you at the 2-3 turn. These are the players that are gone off the board. So this is the players that you'll be taking, and we'll be debating who do you go for in the 2-3 hole as it turns back around. We'll have everyone give a take and a turn on that once we get going tonight. So if you're craving some fantasy football, it's going to be fun to do this tonight. If you're watching this on the replay, it's going to be fun for you to see some different opinions. We had some, when we did our full draft on Friday, it was very, picks were all over the place. Obviously, we're just at the beginning of researching. And if you're loving this and want to join us on Zoom next time, just leave us a comment saying Zoom. We'd love to have you here. We'll pull up the Underdog ADP here for that as well. Let's just see what else is on here. We haven't looked at Harden yet. So Harden 16-5, 8-5 assists.
I would pound that one.
You like over on that?
Yeah, he'll get 10, 11 assists.
What makes you say that, David?
He's a career point guard. Yeah, I mean he's always led his team in assists. You've got guys like PG-13, Khwai Leonard. I mean, it just makes it so much easier for him, because as much as a reputation he has as a ball hog, the reason he was such a ball hog, even when he led his team in assists, was because he was carrying the team. There was literally no one else that could do that. But he's always been an assist guy.
All right, so let's look at Harden. These are his numbers since coming over to the Clippers. He's averaging 8-3 assists, so pretty much right on track with where this number is. So we'd really, to me, this is his average. So in order to make this a good bet, we'd have to see some indicator that this might go up or down today based on Westbrook being out. Or based on the matchups. Do you see anything specific to this game as to why Harden's numbers might go up, David?
Yeah, like I said, he had a bad game yesterday, so I think he'll be a lot more focused on making the right play. Another guy I mentioned, Khwai Leonard and PG, but another guy who always shows up against Milwaukee, and Alex could probably attest to this.
I know what you're gonna say.
Deer Hunter. Norman Powell.
Yep,
that man's probably gonna drop 20 tonight also. So that's why I would pound that. And then like you said, no Westbrook tonight, so he'll be eating up all the minutes at the point.
Let's see if they have a play on Powell. I'm curious to look.
Oh my gosh, smash that.
13-5, yeah.
Smash it.
That seems really low. As Dame, if I start to picture how is this likely going to play out, I see Dame, trying to keep him in it, trying to, hero ball it. And then, maybe Harden, trying to keep up with that to some degree, kind of getting caught up in that, trying to get into a shootout with Dame. He doesn't, if Dame hits a 3 in his face, I feel like he's coming right back down the court looking for a step back. So to me, if anything, I think Harden's shooting numbers might go up based on tonight. And Powell could wind up kind of getting caught up in that some as well. Harden, they have him at 16-5 on the season. He is at 17-4. Interesting. They have him less tonight with Westbrook out. That doesn't make sense.
I would stay away from that one. That's the points with Harden. That's a tricky one on that team.
Yeah, because he's like you said, he had a really bad shooting game last night as well. So with Westbrook out, we would expect those minutes to go maybe to Terrence Mann. I mean, Mann's already getting more minutes per game than Westbrook. Let's see where else might we see some plays here. As Bones Highland, I think, was a guy that we talked about who probably step in as the backup point guard. I don't expect.
Another interesting thing I just saw is that Damian Lillard has lost his last 9 games against the Clippers. So it seems like maybe Ty Lue knows how to defend and get it at Lillard a little bit.
Well, how many of those games were with the Blazers when he was the one doing everything?
Yeah, no,
that makes it a little bit different.
They were all with the Blazers. I get your point there because he was the only player on that team. Or if the Blazers were having any success, it was all because of Lillard, right? I mean, you can't name any other players.
Well, that's a good point, Cameron, because with Giannis and Middleton out, it's kind of the same situation tonight. So that's a good stat to bring up.
Yeah, this is the first time these two teams are meeting this year. Of course, they play a home and home when it's East and West. Let's take a look at Terrence Mann here. 7.5. I'm pretty sure that's right around his average. I checked that earlier. I would think, he might get some more shots, with Westbrook out. He really just seems to be underperforming for, what he's capable of with 25 minutes a game. Zubac, I never really like to bet on these players that aren't going to be a main part of the game. Anything could ebb or flow with one of them. A big guy could get in foul trouble pretty easily. I try to avoid those. All right, we haven't looked at Paul George yet. Let's see if anything stands out here. A double-double with 6x odds. That's obviously a long shot. Rebounds or assists. Let's see what George has been averaging on the year here.
The first quarter seems low. 4.5 points.
5 and 3 here. He's great with the steals. Let's hop back over there. So Q1 4.5. Yeah, I mean, if you're saying, he's gonna have 20 by the end of the game, that's about 5 per quarter. It'd be interesting to see, is he gonna come out shooting or what?
Is he on a minutes restriction? Because he just came back from injury, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. I only have his season numbers here. He
plays a lot of minutes. Wow.
One thing that I was going to say about that is, yes, in theory, it averages out to 5 a quarter. But you look at superstars; those guys aren't starting the second quarter. That's generally when they're coming off the bench. Maybe they get a 4-minute, 5-minute rest to start the quarter, pop in and out once. The first quarter is more likely 9 minutes to start. Maybe he comes out, but in all likelihood, he probably plays 9, 10, 11 of those 12 first quarter minutes.
Yeah, you make a good point about knowing the rotations. That would be kind of an interesting something to research in terms of betting, right? Because from what I have seen over 30 years of basketball, you generally take out your player, at the end of the first and going into the start of the second, right? And you use that quarter as like, okay, they got that time plus a little bit of time on each end. If you rest them 3 minutes at the end of the first and 3 minutes at the start of the second, that means they play 9 minutes each of those quarters, right? The first 9 minutes of the first and the last 9 minutes of the second. That's like a standard rotation, but you don't put all 5 players on the bench at the same time, right? So it'd be interesting to look at what some of the different patterns are with rotations and see if you might be able to find an edge if a player plays more of the first quarter. I noticed, like with Denver, for example, Jokic went to the bench. He pretty much played all the first quarter in the game that was on, I think it was Sunday, and then did it in the second quarter. He only played about 8.5 minutes. It was that's a significant disparity there. Of course, none of us really know what the Clippers rotation is tonight, but these are things you can look at as you watch a lot of games. I watch a lot of Boston games now, and those are things we could start to pick up on in terms of their rotations. All right, so we've got our plays. Let's go ahead and put into the YouTube chat here with what you think are your best plays of the night. Everyone should also put in who they're taking. I've got the Bucks plus the win here, and what I'm going to look for again, if the Bucks win this game, I'm going to look for each of you to give me a take on why they won the game, giving Dame credit and Doc Rivers credit, because clearly they deserve it if they can somehow win this game without Giannis. In contrast, if the Clippers win this game, that's a sign of what they can do with Westbrook. That's a credit to guys like Harden, who we may not normally like, and we want to give them their props. And this also puts some stakes at it. This is one of the things I thought would make this more fun. It's funny, a mentor of mine, she suggested we do something like, every time Curry hits a three-pointer, you could wax some of your chest hair or something like that if you're betting against them. I'm like, that's a little extreme. Plus, you see now Curry gets hot. Like, I could be bare here by the end of the day. But she's like, I don't even watch basketball, but I tune in to watch you guys doing that. So we want to come up with something like that where each of us, does something. If anybody has any idea, I think it's called raising the stakes. It's a good way to get your audience more engaged. For me, all I could come up with was like, well, I really don't like Harden, but I'll do a take kind of giving him his props if he does win, and vice versa. I know some of you guys don't care for Doc or think Dame doesn't defend, but if he can win this game, we got to give him this credit. So we'll have that for sure. And if anybody else has any ideas, we'll have those for sure. Hopefully the game tips off right at 8. I'm raring to go here. I got it up on my TV on the left. They've been starting a little bit off schedule. But I think that's more, I noticed like with the Sunday games, it's like once the first game starts late, they have to start the next game late because it, messes up the whole schedule. We'll have the game cast on here like we always do. And I'm hoping to get dialed into where we can show some highlights from the game. If any of you guys are able to pull it up on your computer while we're here, I think Will had mentioned that he had it on streaming. I don't have it on streaming, but if you do, I was reading some more about that, and we can show highlights of the game with us commenting over them and still be in compliance. We're not broadcasting the whole game, and it's our voice as long as we're not using the audio. So that's something I'd like to start experimenting with this week. It'd be ideal if I could figure out how to get it hooked up on my end, but I don't have a streaming service. I might just go get Amazon's, NBA package so that we can do it. But if anybody has that and wants to try it out tonight, we could try doing a screen share with some actual in-game highlights, because a lot of the people that watch this on the replay are coming to see, hey, what happened in that game? Especially when the outcome is like, if Milwaukee wins this game, for example, people are going to be wondering what the heck happened. And this is one of the places they're going to be tuning in to find some more of that story. Right. So at this point, I want to get things ready for us to do our 1-minute takes. If you want to use the Zoom raise of hand to get into the queue. And I'm going to start tonight. I wear my Tampa Bucks jersey. I thought also, we're doing the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. It's funny often how those names kind of get mixed up. The Milwaukee Bucks is Bucks, right? The Tampa Bucks is Bucs. It's Pirates, not Moose. But a lot of times people get those mixed up. In fact, I remember this when the Bucks got the first pick in the NBA draft lottery. This will be a trivia question for everyone here except for Alex, because I know you know who they wound up taking that year with the number 1 overall pick. But I remember that there was a breaking story, and at the time, my kids were pretty young and heard it on the news. And they're like, Dad, the Bucks got the first pick, right? Thinking it was Tampa. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we just had the draft, NFL draft a couple months ago. It was June. And then I'm like, oh, they're talking about Milwaukee Bucks, but my kids just heard Bucks. Any of you guys remember who that was the Bucks took My daughter's 22 now. She was pretty young.
Was it Parker?
What's that?
Jabari Parker?
No, Parker was not a number one overall, but he
Wasn't
was
it,
pretty highly
Cameron,
picked.
Cameron should
The
know this.
Australian.
Oh yeah,
Cameron.
it was Bo Gett, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, Andrew Bogut.
Yeah, Andrew
Yeah.
Bogut. We could have a good debate on whether or not he was a bust or not. I mean, he was, he made the All-Star team and
He's good on
certainly,
defense. He could pass the ball. Definitely helped the Warriors get that championship in 2015. He's a big
yeah.
piece. And I honestly think he's a big piece on why the Warriors had a big downfall in that 3-1 meltdown. I mean, Draymond got suspended. Curry fouled out in his first game in like 3 years in that game 6. Then Bogut got injured too, and Iggy was injured as well. Just a lot of crap happened that series for the Cavs to pull that one out. But still, it was a great series to watch. I enjoyed it. And Bogut, man, I miss him. I liked him. He was a good player. The Australian.
Yeah, I don't know about a number one overall in retrospect, right? I think he was pretty consensus at the time, but is he beloved, Alex, back in Wisconsin, or is he hated, or what's the take on Andrew Bogut?
There's not really a take on him. I mean, I think people were surprised that we took him one. He did have one of the worst injuries I've ever seen in sports with his elbow injury. That was just disgusting. And I think that actually kind of affected him going forward in his career. But I mean, no one hates him. I know that, but he's just kind of, cool. Cool. We took him first.
I feel like you guys are too nice. In any other city, I think you'd be
Yeah, we are too nice.
hated as like, man, we that was our number one pick. And while we're on that topic, let's do another quick trivia. We'll let someone answer besides Alex or Cameron. Before Bogut, who was the Bucks number one pick? The last number one pick they had before Bogut. Feel free to yell it out.
Who else?
Michael Redd?
Red was actually a second round pick, but Red was a steal. He was great.
Yeah,
I think
he was tough.
at Ohio State, man. They had a final 8 run on that team, and Red still didn't get picked in the first round. But that's the right team, just the wrong player. Anybody remember who else was on that team? It's probably before a lot of you guys were born. And he didn't really live up to his billing. I think the furthest he got that team was an Eastern Conference Finals. It was the big dog, Glenn Robinson. Robinson was a number one overall, and he was a stat stuffer, a 20-10 guy. And that team with him and Ray Allen and Sam Cassell had a nice little run, but really never put it all together. He was, at the time, that was one of the biggest, that's before they had a rookie salary cap scale. And Robinson, I think he got like $100 million contract.
Yeah, he did.
Never really kind of lived up to it. When you're the first player to get that kind of money, and he was a one and done. You back then, before it was really a thing to be one and done in the 90s. He was I think a Prop 48 kid, and then played 1 year in college. All right. So, I'm going to kick things off for tonight with our 1 minute takes and talk about the Tampa Bucks and Mike Evans. So Mike Evans re-signed a 2-year deal worth over $50 million. I've been calling for the Bucks to blow it up, go with Kyle Trask. I don't want a team that's going to make the playoffs. I want teams that are going to win championships, and I'm okay with losing until you get to that point. I knew that Tampa had no intentions of doing that. Tampa doesn't think that way. They're mostly a city that's good, and this is kind of proof of it. Everyone in Tampa has been up in arms for them to re-sign Mike Evans. Mike Evans, of course, is 30 years old, going to be 31 when this season tips off. That's usually the beginning and the end for wide receivers. Historically speaking, there's not very many receivers that have played well into their mid-30s. Your peak is 28, 29, 30, you're good. 31, you're not good. So this past year, Evans wanted the deal. The team didn't give it to him. And there was a lot of fan uproar about this. It was smart that the team didn't give it to him because we didn't know what was going to happen with Baker Mayfield, didn't know what was going to happen with the team. Evans, to his credit, said it was negotiating before the season started, and then said, once the season starts, we're not going to talk about this. I'm not going to negotiate mid-year. It's not going to be a distraction to the team. I give Mike Evans a lot of credit to that. Mike Evans came out, had one of his best years. I did not draft him in one fantasy football league. To me, it was way too risky with Baker being an unknown coming in, Brady leaving. You would think Evans' numbers would go down, and they weren't that great. With Brady, they were good, but you would think they would for sure be going down. So Evans really stepped up. He had great chemistry with Baker Mayfield. He does drop the ball a lot, but he also makes a lot of huge plays and scores touchdowns, and can lead the league in touchdowns. So Evans has a great year. The offseason comes. Evans is an unrestricted free agent now, and he chose not to test the waters. He chose to re-sign with Tampa for a 2-year deal. This is one of the biggest reasons I was against re-signing Evans. He's eligible for a 4-year deal. And I did not want to be on the hook for him 4 years at $100 million. We might get 1, maybe 2 more good years out of him, but years 3 and 4, he's not going to be worth that kind of money. And those are the kind of salaries that can hamstring your organization if you have a lot of dead money locked into somebody who's injured and not playing at 33 or 34. So knowing that Evans was seeking a 4-year deal, eligible for a 4-year deal, I was against them re-signing. So I was shocked to hear that Evans signed a 2-year deal. It's a little bit overpaying for him, but not much in terms of the market. I think it's $26 million a year for 2 years, heavily guaranteed. So the Bucks could be screwed if he gets hurt this year or next year. It is guaranteed. But the fact that it's a 2-year deal makes it a smart deal for the team. And I really give Evans a lot of credit for this. To me, Evans could have went out. Somebody would have threw 4 years, $80 million at him. And he didn't want that. And if he left, it could impact his legacy. He likes being in Tampa. It's not often that a guy chooses to stay where he is. They're not necessarily going to win a ring, but he wants to play out his career in Tampa. In my opinion, he did what is great for the team. In 2 years from now, if he's still playing a high level, he'll do another 2-year deal with the team. But he didn't force the team into a 4-year deal. I give him a lot of credit for that. Not enough players do that. I feel like that's the Tom Brady influence on him, and wanted to give a take and a shout out to Evans today. I'm excited for the Bucks to re-sign Mike Evans for those 2 years. The one thing I feel they did wrong is announcing it already. I wish they'd have kept this behind closed doors, because now you lose all your leverage with Baker Mayfield. Baker's going to say, oh, well, now that Evans is in, I'm in. Right. And Baker's the same category for me. I do not want to give Baker a 4-year deal. Someone's going to throw 4 years at him. I think Atlanta is crazy if they don't throw 4 years, $100 million to Baker, because that would swing the whole division in favor of Atlanta. That would destroy Tampa, and that would give Atlanta what they need to make the playoffs. So to me, a $100 million deal from Atlanta to Baker Mayfield is a possibility. And now the Bucks are kind of, you already spent the money on Evans. It would be dumb to now not bring Baker back and to put in Kyle Trask. You either blow up both of them or you let both of them go. So the fact that the Bucks, they're kind of screwed themselves with Baker Mayfield, in my opinion now. But I'm hoping Baker will learn from Mike Evans, will do what's best for the team, do what's best for his career. And, Baker has a reputation of bouncing around a lot. He's got chemistry here. He put up good numbers here. He's starting to, fit in with the culture in Tampa. The people of Tampa like his style. So that all should lend itself to Baker, maybe taking also a 2-year deal. And now he's in sync with Evans. That would be, for Baker, that'll be leaving a lot of money on the table. If Atlanta throws 4 years, $100 million, and Tampa comes back with 2 years, $50 million or $60 million, that's $40 million he's losing, right? That's a huge number potentially for Baker to have to decide about. But I think it's very risky if Baker goes to Atlanta and he sucks there. Now he's been on 5 teams in 4 years, and really his career could be over. Here he knows he's got Evans. He knows he's got a franchise. I hope they can get him in the door for 2 years and at a reasonable contract. So that's my take on Tampa and Mike Evans. We're not going to do 1-minute time limits today, to be strict, just in terms of the number of people we have here. But I would love to get a take from everyone. And I'm going to jump in once the game officially tips off. It looks like they're still running the last commercials here. So up first for your take is Andrew. Go ahead.
All right, so my take is about the NFL and the NFL draft, and of course, my Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of football fans will tune in on Thursday nights, but at the end of the day, your team can be made or broke in those second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth rounds. Today was a somber day for Philadelphia sports fans. I know Alvin is grinning ear to ear now that Jason Kelsey is no longer going to be playing football for the Philadelphia Eagles. One of the all-time draft steals that you could ever have. And the other thing that I think Jason Kelsey really brought to light is that a lot of athletes complain when they play in Philadelphia that the fans are too tough or the media is too tough. If you happen to listen to Jason Kelsey's press conference today, it was electric and just very heartfelt and really gives you what it takes to play in Philadelphia. If you're going to be bothered by the boos, then by all means, no offense, go play in Milwaukee. They're not going to boo you in Milwaukee. If you want fans to be all in, ride or die, like the way that the Philadelphia Eagles have been with Jason Kelsey for 12 years, all you got to do is put in a little bit of effort. Drafts can be made on the third day, and the Eagles absolutely made their draft in 2012 by drafting Jason Kelsey.
Interesting take. I love it. Where did Kelsey get drafted? Do you recall? Oh, you're on mute.
6th round out of Cincinnati.
Wow. Yeah, I knew he played at Cincinnati with his brother there for Kelly, right? Who's running LSU now. But I didn't know what round he went. So very insightful take there. I love getting the hometown takes from you guys, just like you heard me do with Tampa. Of course, my teams, I've lived in Tampa now 22 years, but I'm from Boston. So those are my teams. Love getting the hometown take there from Andrew and your perspective on Jason Kelsey retirement. With each of these takes, let's respond in the YouTube chat. And if anyone needs the link, I'll send that link over to you guys. Go ahead and tell me in the YouTube chat what your response would be to these takes. I'll tell you this. So I'm watching Pat McAfee today. He's back from his 2-week vacation. And he breaks into it and announces Kelsey's retiring. We got to go to this press conference. And my first thought was, fucking Travis Kelsey's retiring? I've already drafted 20 fantasy football teams for next season with him on half of them because he keeps falling to me in the 4th round. Like, this is not fair. I have a guy who's retiring, and then I'm there like Jason Kelsey. I'm like, what the fuck? And then so I tune in to watch it. It's already started. And he's telling some story about playing for Chip Kelly and like how many plays they had to run there. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And he's crying. I'm like, there's no crying in football. This is football. This is not for Kelsey, who's got that beard and that look and chugging beers and his shirt off. I was very surprised to see him crying and blubbering on like that, and did not watch more than 3 minutes of it. He's retired. He's an O-lineman. Footnote. It was like a Hall of Fame level type speech. I don't think players do that when they retire. You generally ride off into the sunset, let alone O-linemen do that. But I do know he means a lot to the city of Philadelphia. And I think he is the perfect fit for you guys. And it's interesting how many players, I feel like Barkley and Iverson and, Kelsey, like so many of the guys, the guys you get are a perfect fit, or do they become the perfect fit because they're in Philly? That would be an interesting episode for us to dive into. So they still haven't tipped off our game here. So next up, we will go to Alvin and get the Cowboys' perspective on what's happening right now with the draft and current events.
And the Cowboys are definitely looking to get bigger. I'll take my hat off to Kelsey for a moment of silence. But put it clean back on because we're getting bigger and better. In the draft, we're getting more beef. We're looking for 290 and above to stop the run. We're also looking to get linebackers in this draft and through free agency. The Cowboys additionally are looking to add another stable of running backs. So they're going to be bringing in a lot of running backs through the draft and through free agency. to help Dowdle and I'm having a blank to help Dowdle. I know one of you Eagles fans know. My other running back in the backfield there to
Swift? You mean
get
on
that
the
ball in
Philly?
the end zone. No,
Talking
with
about the Dallas running backs.
Dallas. I can't think of his
Oh,
name right
Pollard.
now.
You got Pollard in there.
Pollard, thank you.
I don't
To
think
help
he'll be
Donald and
back.
Pollard in the backfield. Because we definitely need help in the red zone. Our problem is not in between the 20s, it's in the red zone, getting the football in the red zone when it counts. So I'm very appreciative that Zimmer is looking to get bigger and better in that middle so we can stop the run and make that push.
All right, and a perfect timing. Our game is just tipped off. I do have a follow-up question for you, but let's pay attention to what's happening here. We got, it looks like some sort of early penalty or whistle on this. Did anybody see what happened in this? On the tip? I don't know. They got a delay here on the tip. It's like, are they going to review on whether he stole the tip or not? They always steal the tip in the NBA and they never call it. I don't know why. To me, that's one of the things I was taught as a high school and college referee is if the tip doesn't go fair, like right from the get-go, that team and that coach and that fans is going to think you screwed us. And so it's so important that the tip goes up. And there's 3 officials out there. The other 2, you need to call it back. Like if the tip is off, if someone steals it, the throwing guy can't tell. But you gotta call that, and they really encourage us to to call that in high school and college, and they don't ever call it in the NBA. All right, so teams are a little cold coming out shooting here. Looks like Paul George just ended that take. So, Alvin, one of the things that is the talk of fantasy football land is what are the Dallas Cowboys going to do at running back? So I'm wondering if you're hearing any whispers or have any opinions. To me, the Tony Pollard experiment did not work. I was so high on him last year. He was awesome when he was Zeke's backup. Last year, you guys handed him the reins. He very underperformed, in my opinion. He was on the franchise tag last year, so he's going to cost a lot of money, 15 to 20 million to come back. He's going to be wanting a long-term deal. It would be dumb to commit multi-years to him. And so I don't see him being back. I see him being a salary cap casualty and Dallas needing to make a move at running back. So then the question becomes, where do they go? There's a lot of rumors about Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, for as old as he's getting, still had 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns last year. Even if that drops, his touchdowns drop in half, he's still a very productive fantasy running back. Of course, he's in his 30s and running backs generally don't. They hit the wall. If you think back to guys like Adrian Peterson, and Henry's even more of a bruiser. But on Dallas, he suddenly becomes a very attractive pick. And it's interesting, like I did over this weekend, I did about a dozen fantasy football drafts, like $5 each on Underdog, just having fun. And people are speculating that Henry's going to the Cowboys and taking him a lot higher than I think they should. He's for sure not going to be back with Tennessee. And what are your other options? There's also your running backs coming out of college. One of the most highly rated running backs coming out of college that I've been reading about is a guy from University of Texas. He tore his ACL in November, and but a Texas guy staying in Texas, that could make a lot of sense for the Cowboys too. Alvin, what are you seeing for the Cowboys at running back?
So I'm definitely saying that, like you said, the rumor mill about Derrick Henry coming to town. I personally would love Derrick Henry for what the service is. I would love him to be there because he's a big back who's still capable of easily, if worst case scenario, easily getting around 700 yards. And I can see double-digit touchdowns in the red zone for him in the season. But I also know that the Cowboys are definitely looking in the draft. We are not going to reach too high. Don't expect us to draft a running back in the first 5 rounds at all. They're going to look for that special talent in running backs. And one thing you can say about the Cowboys and Jerry Jones does know how to buy the groceries, but he needs to stop trying to be the chef as well. But he knows how to buy the groceries.
That's a good one on him. Let's make sure everybody put their props bets into the YouTube chat as well as your picks here in our YouTube chat. It's important for us to have engagement in the YouTube chat. If you're watching us on YouTube, we'd love to have you like and subscribe and give us your picks in here. And if you want to join us on Zoom, just comment saying Zoom and we'll put the link here in Zoom. I would disagree with you about where the Cowboys take a running back. To me, Jerry Jones has always valued the running back position. He paid Zeke a lot of money. And I think even if the Cowboys do bring in Derrick Henry, I would see them going second or third round with the running back. There's not really any running backs projected to be first round picks this year, but there's a lot of talent, probably 10 guys that I read about that could easily start in the NFL and that'll be available in rounds 2 through 4. And I would look for the Cowboys to really jump on getting one of those guys. It's kind of like buying a lottery ticket. And it's definitely something they need. And I think there's a lot of stats there. You know, from what I saw of the Cowboys last year, looking at their box scores, they would get on the goal line, and a lot of times Dak would have to run a play action and throw it to the tight end. You know, their tight ends are not very good, but both of them had quite a few touchdowns. Those are all, if you had a good short yardage back, those plays wouldn't happen. Like those are third down touchdowns because Pollard couldn't punch it in on first and second down. So those are touchdowns. I see Derrick Henry could easily get 10. And with the way that offense can move the ball, I could see, you know, another 5 to 8 touchdowns for a nice rookie in there as well. I think there's plenty to go around, and the Cowboys are going to be explosive. I'm very high on Dak Prescott. Looking at his stats coming back to next year, there's no reason to expect a drop off. CeeDee Lamb is amazing. CeeDee Lamb's stats from last year, if you haven't looked at them, we'll look at them tonight. They are off the charts, amazingly good. Better than what Justin Jefferson did the year before, and everybody was taking Jefferson consensus number 1. Jefferson,
hey, Greg, I just got to push back on that tight end. The Dallas Cowboys love Jake Ferguson. He was a nice talent. We just didn't know how to get him the ball.
Jake and Luke Spooner, right? Is the other one Schooner, something like that?
Yeah.
Schoonmaker.
Scootermaker, yeah, that's what it is.
Ferguson's a stud. He's a
Well,
stud.
I disagree. They don't. I mean, the tight end you guys lost to Houston, like he put up numbers.
Now that was a mistake. We lost Dalton Schultz, but you had Ferguson in the wing.
Yeah, but I'm saying they know how to use the tight end because they got the ball to Schultz. Schultz was getting 8 touchdowns a year. So, you know, and they lost Ferguson. They went with they lost Schultz and went with Ferguson. It's not like they forgot how to get the tight end the ball. They just did it. You know,
because we're too worried about getting CeeDee Lamb. That was evident in the playoffs. CeeDee Lamb, we were trying to force it to CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, and well, it worked all year. He carried you guys. I mean, CeeDee Lamb had 12 touchdowns last year. The year before, Justin Jefferson, who had Justin Jefferson had 1,800 yards, 8 touchdowns, and everybody was saying it's the greatest receiver season they've ever seen. He was the consensus number 1 fantasy pick last year. Lamb's season this year was better. He had 1,700 yards with 12 touchdowns, and which is even better. All right, let's check in on our game here and then have David. Well, first, let's have David give his take.
Yeah, for sure. So I thought we had a great weekend in sports. There's a lot of things from this past weekend that we can talk about. A lot of fun things, but I'm actually going to take a left turn here, go on a little bit of a more serious note. Something that, so just so y'all know, I'm getting my degree in journalism. I'd like to be a sports journalist, maybe, you know, do some coaching. So yesterday, I'm sure everybody heard, Chris Mortensen passed away. The Mort Report, I grew up watching that. ESPN's Sports Center. I wanted to be just like that, right? Talk about sports. I mean, talk about sports for a living. Who doesn't want to do that? So I think, you know, just the impact that he's had on, you know, not only someone like myself, but I'm sure, you know, we all watched him on Sports Center, NFL Countdown, Sunday NFL pregame show. He was a huge influence in the community. Peyton Manning, they're talking about him on ESPN today. He was the guy to break the news. Peyton Manning made sure that when he was battling cancer, that he was the one to give the scoop of his retirement. So I just want to make everybody Like I said, it would be a disservice to not talk about him, and just everybody, hug your loved ones, let them know you love them, and yeah, rest in peace to Chris Mortensen.
Well, I had myself on mute there while I was taking a sip of my water. So Chris Mortensen, obviously a big loss. He's been a big part of sports for a long time now. It says he first appeared on ESPN 1991, right? So that's what, 10, 20, 30 years ago. And has been a part of a lot of big stories. He broke the Deflategate controversy. I didn't even really know that. And his passing is at age 72 here. And let's see. It seemed like he had a stroke, right? I didn't really know he had throat cancer as well.
He had been battling cancer for a few years. I think the NFL draft last year was the last thing he did before he finally retired from ESPN. But even during the draft, he was talking with a really heavy slur. So everybody kind of knew his health wasn't, where it could be, where it should be.
Yeah, I think for the past year or so, you could really see him out there not at 100%, still going because he loved what he was doing. I think that says a lot about him. I think that says a lot about the respect that people have for him, that they, allowed him to be out there not at 100% like that. And how awesome is that to be a sports journalist like that? I mean, each of us likely dream of doing something like this where, we can work till the day we die at 72. That is a life lived worth living. And something that, we would never want to retire from. Most people, once they got sick, right, they're ready to check out and be done. And Mort didn't do that. And I think that really is a credit to everything in the sports world that Mort was a part of. Let's check in on our game here. We are underway, of course, in the first quarter so far. Paul George is off to a quick start, 8-0. Lillard has 7 in the first quarter, 9 total. We were looking at his total PRA. Of course, we still have quite a bit of time to go in this one, 5 minutes to go in the first. So as long as they don't take Lillard out, he now has 10, just hit another 3 there. And the Bucks are winning. Kawhi's come out 0 for 1. Harden's come out 1 for 3. Interesting, I guess Man got the start here tonight, unless they just brought him in. And Patrick Beverly also coming in early off the bench here. And Crowder getting minutes here instead of Portis. That's interesting too. All right, we'll continue to keep an eye on that game. And let's go next to Will. Go ahead and give us your take, Will.
All right. Worst one yet, but I'm going to finally do a Browns one. I've been MIA in the Browns for a little bit. No one's really heard anything. So something people don't know, we got blown. We probably got one of the worst / stupidest calls ever in the time when we had Baker Mayfield against the Chiefs. We should have beaten them. And they had Tyreek Hill. It was the stupidest call I've ever seen. It was one of those things when the guy dove into the end zone and it was a touchback, which I hate that rule. It doesn't make any sense.
In the playoff game, right? You're talking about the playoff game?
It was a playoff game. Yep.
I remember
we were going to beat them with Tyreek Hill. And we got a defensive coordinator who changed the team. We got so much better after that game. So I'm going to say with Baker Mayfield, the Browns win a Super Bowl. We continue to have Baker. And, I think this is a solid argument, you guys. People might think it's crazy because it's the Browns, but we were one play away and the Chiefs got worse and we got better. We got way better. The Chiefs obviously got worse because they lost Tyreek Hill. They might have some different players, but I think losing Tyreek hurt them for sure. And I think the Browns could have won a Super Bowl with Baker.
So why do you think, Will, that Cleveland fans ran him out of town? Because, he had beat the Steelers in the playoffs that year too. Your hated rival. And he beat them in the play after they lost that regular season. That was one of the greatest regular season games. It was a big shootout. Baker lost. They come back next week. They beat the Steelers. Then they play the Chiefs. If you guys remember back, I recently just looked these games up. That's to talk about Baker with my Tampa friends. But and what happened was the Chiefs got off to a really early lead in that game. I think they were up like 21-0, and Baker led Cleveland all the way back. And it looked like Baker was going to get the ball back to be able to drive them down the field for a game-winning drive. We never know if Baker would have been able to do that or not. It's a big if. But they never got the ball back because of this call that Will's talking about, and then Mahomes just kind of ran out the clock, and that was the end.
Yeah, and then that 4th and 1 call that crushed me. They did a fake punt with like a minute left and got it. Killed me. But yeah, that's a rundown. I think they would have won the Super Bowl
that year.
Maybe not that year. I mean, yeah, I think they would have beaten the Bills. The Bills weren't that good. And then who would they have had to play? The Eagles? Who would they have had to play that year?
This was going back a while ago, right? That was the year.
He played the next year, but he banged up his shoulder in week 2. It was actually against the Texans where he did whatever he did to his shoulder. Yeah. And he tried to play the entire season like a gimpy tortilla, and they didn't even make the playoffs.
Yeah. And then we had a kicker. We had a kicker. Our kicker missed at least 5. No joke, 5 game-winning field goals. But for you, Greg, the situation was he just didn't want to stay there. Like we just signed Deshaun Watson, which everybody regrets now. I think a lot of people do. He could come back and be fine, but they just didn't want to keep Baker. They just did not want to keep him, and we pretty much ran him out. And then we ran Odell Beckham out. His dad, there's so much to this. We don't have as many people, so I could go into it. His dad actually set Kevin Stefanski plays on when he was open. So his dad posted on Instagram, "My son is not getting the ball thrown to him." So we got rid of him. And there's a lot of stuff, but we cleaned house and we got better coaches. Our coaches are so much better now than they were back then.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, so that Super Bowl, that was the Garoppolo 49ers team that was seemed very impressive rolling into that playoffs. But certainly, I mean, Garoppolo is a weak link. I don't know that he would have won a Super Bowl no matter who he played that year. Yeah, I mean, I never heard anything about Baker wanting out. I thought the Cleveland fans wanted him out because that all happened the year after that. Cleveland had high hopes and Baker came back and wasn't very good. And you guys were back to being mediocre. And that was it. They were done with it.
Look it up, man. All those games within a field goal. Our kicker, we had the worst kicker I've ever seen. He missed.
And it also coincides. Baker's 4 years of his rookie contract were up. And so it was like, in order to keep him, you were going to have to give him a big new 4-year extension. And at that point, they didn't want to do that, which you can make a case that was a smart move. I mean, Deshaun Watson, before all that happened, was like a Michael Jordan out there. He was winning big games. He was single-handedly. I don't think those Houston teams were very good.
I haven't given up.
He wasn't winning the big games. I don't know which big games you're talking about. Maybe the Buffalo wild card game, but I mean, he was up until CJ Stroud, he was the best quarterback that we had ever had. But he was like Josh Allen. Like he'll never get over that hump.
I think he can with the Browns team.
David Carr wasn't great.
No, I first of all, for the Houston teams to even make the playoffs, was a surprise under Deshaun Watson, in my opinion. I mean, he won one of the biggest games in college of all time, right down at the very end, right, to beat Alabama. At that point, Alabama had, was unbeatable, and he won that game, and then went into Houston and started putting up big numbers. Right away. And even after they traded DeAndre, his big receiver, right? He was still putting up big numbers to no-name receivers. and not much other talent on that offensive team is how I remember it. He was like top 5 in fantasy for a couple years there. So his stats were good. He led them to the playoffs. He had a huge lead on the Chiefs. It was the defense that let them down and let the Chiefs back into that game.
What nobody talks about in the first quarter is the Chiefs couldn't catch a football to save their lives. That was just fool's gold that first quarter that the Chiefs were giving us the game at that point. Then they decided that they wanted to play football. But no, as far as the Deshaun Watson, that 2020 season, he was like Matt Stafford out there. The game was out of hand. It was just Matt Stafford putting up the numbers like he did with the Lions. So yes, he had the best, career, his career year, but it was, like Matt Stafford on the Lions, it didn't really matter.
Well, and clearly it's all gone downhill now since, anybody who misses 2 years of playing, you just can't expect.
I'm not ready to give up on him. I think he can.
Well, you can't. You're stuck with him anyways.
Yeah.
He's
got to be like a top. He's got to be like a top 20 quarterback, and that's like what the Browns
There's only
need.
32 teams.
The Browns don't need like a good quarterback, man. They had Joe Flacco, and I think the dome thing is stupid. I might have to do that at some point. Get rid of the dome.
Hey, I'm hearing Joe Flacco to New England, that they're going to draft Marvin Harrison, bring in Joe Flacco and Jacoby, what's his name? Jacoby Jones, I think. And that's going to be the quarterback room. And New England thinks they can win right away with that lineup. Be interesting. Be interesting to see how that works.
How do you feel about that, Greg? How do you feel about that?
Hey, I'm a believer in blowout. Well, I don't like any of the quarterbacks coming out. It wouldn't surprise me if they take Joe Alt at number 3, the Notre Dame O-lineman. And I think that could be a smart pick. Anytime you can anchor the O-line, that makes everybody else look better. I don't love any of those quarterbacks. I don't love Marvin Harrison as much as everybody else does either. And for sure, like if Harrison comes to New England and it's Mac Jones, which is still, he's still on the roster. They're not saying he's gone. That would be the kiss of death to Harrison's career. Like, I do not want him on my fantasy team with Mac Jones throwing in the ball.
When I think of
Let's check in on our game. At the end of the first quarter, we got 1 minute left here. It'd be great to get updates if anybody is keeping an eye on the game as far as what's happening here. Lillard, of course, has 15 points. He's still in the game. So just like we predicted, that was an easy pickings, 15 points scoring, let alone his PRA was 10.5. He's got 18 over that, almost double here. But the Clippers have pulled away. They're up 33-24 now. Kawhi's still out there with looks like the second team. And this should be when Khwai starts to heat up with all the other guys on the bench. All right. Next up is Ernest. Go ahead and give us your take, Ernest.
So nearly after a month of watching the saddest day of my life as we lost Super Bowl against Kansas City Chiefs once again, not that long after that, we fired our defensive coordinator, Steve Wilkes, which was a head scratcher for me because I don't know why we fired him when we had one of the top defenses in the league. But we live another day. So on Saturday, before I say that, after firing him, Kyle Shanahan said that he wasn't going to hire anybody outside of the building. He was going to hire somebody that was within the building. So they made the decision on Saturday to hire, if I get this correct, he was the team's defensive pass game specialist and nickel cornerbacks coach. His name is Nick Sorensen. I have no idea who he is. To be honest with you, I feel as though, like, if you were gonna hire somebody within the building, I would say whoever was right under Steve Wilkes to be the DC instead of, this very specific positions coach. And on top of that, they also hired the previous coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, Brandon Staley, as their assistant head coach, which I am very afraid of. I had no idea why on earth, after the debacle that he had as head coach for the last couple of years of the Chargers, I don't know why they thought it was a great idea to hire him. I mean, like, that was, at that point you could have just put the guy Sorensen as the assistant head coach instead of Brandon Staley. I don't know if it was trying to revive his career so he can get another head coaching job or a potential another coordinator job, but we made our decision of who's going to be a defense coordinator. We'll see what he does when it comes to as soon as preseason or what they do in the draft. But the focus is really on Brandon Staley. Like I don't know why. I don't know why he was hired. I don't even know why he was interviewed. That makes no sense to me. Like I wouldn't want nobody under my building that literally on a Thursday night against a collapsed Las Vegas Raiders team allows 63 points on them, almost 40 points in the first half, probably, if I remember. But I'm scared for our defense, even though we still have on paper and personnel wise one of the best defenses in the league. As far as the coaching staff, it's going to be look real questionable, and we're going to see what they do during preseason and regular season.
Yeah, some interesting takes there on the Niners and hiring Staley as well. Clearly, I mean, Staley just is coming off a big failure in San Diego. He underachieved with that team. It's surprising to me that anybody would want to touch him and be associated with that. I thought for sure he would sit out a year and, you know, then he could maybe work his way back in somewhere. So it is an intriguing hire why the 49ers would want to bring that guy in. If we look at Brandon Staley, my first thoughts was, well, maybe he's a defensive guy, right? But he's not a defensive guy. He played quarterback back in his college days. I was skimming this trying to see like what is he mostly coached. I guess he was a defensive coordinator for some of these years. But you know what really caught my eye here? Imagine like you're looking to hire somebody for a job and this is their resume. Like he's not that old. He's 41 and has never stayed anywhere for more than a year or two, it looks like. Like that would be called a job hopper in traditional industry. That means he's either getting fired or he's leaving to go somewhere else. So that, you know, is another red flag for me in terms of employing Staley. I don't know.
He was one of those guys that, like, when the whole, hire young offensive McVays and Shanahan's, LaFleur's, and he was one of those guys, and that's why the Chargers picked him up.
But for me, I would say there are certain teams that need certain coaches. Like the Chargers, they need more of a more offensive minded coach and let the defensive coordinator run the defense. Like Buffalo, even like that's a rare breed because even though Sean McDermott is a defensive coach, they allow the offensive coaches to, like, in a way, run the offense. Brandon Staley wanted to run everything, even positions that he's never even coached, or a scheme that he's never ran. He was the play caller, even with the defense. He came out and said, "Yeah, when they had a bad game, they said, I'm going to be continuing to call the defense. Don't ask me about that no more." And then weeks later, you get 63 put on your head. Then at that point, you have to understand, like, certain things you have to let other people run. You can't run everything. I think that's what Staley's problem was. He felt as though he had to run everything.
Yeah, I think you're right
have a
on
whole
with
coaching
that.
staff under you.
Let's look in on our game. The second quarter is just underway. The Clippers are up 7. Dame is getting a rest right now. We'll see if the Bucks start to really slip away here. Gallinari's getting his first minutes here in the second quarter. What are they going to look at this lineup they have out there right now? The Bucks: Beverly, Gallinari, Portis, Carnegie, and Green. I don't even know who Green is. That is Paul George should be able to carve that up. He's out there right now with 10. I mean, it seems like Dame is just shooting them in this to keep them in it. He had 15 in the first quarter. And I saw points in the paint. The Clippers are killing them inside, and they're not even known to be a big team. But without Giannis out there, they're banging away inside with second chance points. So 37-28, and we'll check in with everyone on this at halftime. Keep an eye on it, and let's continue with our takes. Up next is Alex.
All right, this will be probably a quick take, but with the news today, Russell Wilson getting released by the Denver Broncos, um, I think it's just a stupid move with Denver, and they just continue the last couple of years to make some of the most, I guess, I don't even know. They leave me speechless. Let's just say some of these moves that they're making are ridiculous, and I just don't get it. I feel like I could be a general manager. It makes me mad. They make so much money, and these moves are so stupid and idiotic. But yeah, releasing Russell Wilson gives them, I think it's NFL history making $85 million dead cap hit, which is just incredible because as a Green Bay fan, I'm all too familiar with dead cap hits with Aaron Rodgers and all that. So I just don't know why they didn't just eat or allow Russell Wilson, just deal with him for another 1 or 2 years to prevent that dead cap hit. And he's not, I don't like him. He was a Wisconsin Badger for 1 year, if you remember back in 2010. But I just don't like him. He's just
Russell
kind of
Wilson, you don't like, you're saying?
I mean, yeah, I loved him when he was on the Badgers. Then when he went into the NFL, on the Seahawks, they had the whole Hail Mary crap against the Packers, and he basically said it was God who made them win. And it's like, dude, give yourself some credit. It's not. I'm glad you have faith, but God didn't win you that game. The refs did. So, I just think
replacement refs.
Yes, the replacement refs. Yeah, I just think he's just corny and just the Broncos country let's ride stuff. I just dislike him. And though I say that, but he's still very talented, and I think Denver made just a stupid decision.
Yeah, I think this would warrant us getting some responses from everyone. But let's put the first responses into the YouTube chat. If anybody has what to say on a take on this, I'd love to hear where he might go, what they might do. I don't want to steal anyone's thunder, but I've got a lot of opinions on this. And I'm a Russell Wilson fan. I think that he is a winner. And when he was at NC State, he beat Clemson, and he's a legend in North Carolina. And it's funny, I didn't even know he went to NC State, literally until I went up there to visit my parents, and I saw a bunch of people with Seattle Wilson jerseys. I'm like, why are there so many Seahawks fans here in this North Carolina bar? They're like, oh, he went here. I'm like, I thought he went to Wisconsin. That's all I remember hearing about. He got drafted out of Wisconsin, and they're like, yeah, we wouldn't let him play baseball, and then he transferred. For his senior year, but he's a legend in North Carolina. He's a little guy. He's one of the first little guys, to lead a team. And he also, I feel like he impacted the whole game in terms of little guys being able to win big. And also this concept of building a team around a rookie contract is really kind of invented by Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. So I feel he's had a real big impact on the game. And I hope that he lands somewhere and can rebound. His stats last year weren't bad. He had 26 touchdowns before they benched him. He was top 10 in terms of fantasy last year before the benching. Of course, if you look at his year-end stats, they're not very good. All right, we'll circle back up on Russell Wilson. Our game's at a commercial break right now. And the score is Bucks 36. And Clippers 41. So they closed the gap a little bit. Cameron, go ahead and give us your take.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the historic weekend we had in sports, right? I mean, even with your Boston Celtics, right, being the first team ever to get 3 50-point wins. Or how about the NFL draft? Did we all think that the 40-yard draft or the 40-yard dash was going to get broken this year? That's one thing I always tune in for in the NFL draft is to see who the fastest player is. Because Chris Johnson held that record for so long, right? It feels like he held it for so long. And then John Ross came out of nowhere and broke it in 2017. And then Xavier Worthy, I think he really upped his draft stock just in that 40 alone. He's going to be real fast. I hear the Chiefs are eyeballing him. Maybe they can follow him in the late round. That'd be dangerous. And then the other historic moments I wanted to touch on was in basketball. LeBron James, first player ever in the history of the NBA to get 40,000 points. Hate him or love him, you got to appreciate that achievement. I don't think that will ever be done again. I mean, it's just crazy to think. I mean, Curry's not even close to that record. And then Caitlin Clark, she broke the NCAA all-time record. And you know what? The thing is, people try to, I think you got to appreciate what these athletes are doing. Yeah, I understand Pistol Pete did it in 3 years without a 3-point line, but let's not take away from what Caitlin is doing today. That's a record that stood for a way longer than the previous record I was talking about. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on in this one weekend of sports, all the that's 4 different historical moments. You don't get that all the time. I just thought it was a great weekend. So yeah.
Yeah, there definitely was a lot happening in a month that, football is not playing anymore and sometimes can be thought of as being down season here.
Cameron, just to be clear, you don't think Zion Williamson will break LeBron's record with his McDonald's diet?
Nah, dude, I don't. I saw that you'd have to average 24 points for 20 seasons. And dude, Zion doesn't got 20 seasons under his belt, man. He's lucky to even finish out this season, right?
Yeah, a lot happening in basketball, career accomplishments. LeBron's really won me over as he's played as long as he have. It's funny, when he was the young guy, I'm an 80s, 90 guy. And he was battling my Celtics, so I was a LeBron hater. This kid's born with a spoon in his mouth. But now 20 years later, he's like, he's a guy I've been watching for 20 years. And there's a new set of young guys coming in to take on LeBron. He's moved over to the old guys camp now, and I've become more of a fan of him later in his career. And NFL Combine, yeah, Xavier Worthy broke some records. I'm not that high on him. I was reading up quite a bit about him. I watched Texas play a couple games this year. I watched their regular season game against Alabama and also their playoff game when they lost to Washington. He is fast. You can't teach speed. But other than that, I wasn't that impressed with him in either of those games that I saw. He really didn't stand out to me that much. And speed isn't everything. You got to be able to make plays. And one of the things that may be lost, and this probably not lost with GMs, but the guy who finished just under Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas of LSU, he's was literally like 0.1% back. Like he would have broke the record this year, except that Xavier broke it by even further. And Thomas was an absolute stud at LSU. And is going to be for sure a first-round pick. I don't see Xavier Worthy as a first-round pick unless somebody thinks they can coach him up. But Brian Thomas, an absolute stud, and if he falls to a team like the Chiefs, that would be absolutely amazing. I don't think he'll fall that far unless they trade up to get him. I mean, everyone's raving about Malik Neighbors at LSU, and I like Neighbors a lot too, but Brian Thomas had more touchdowns than Neighbors on the LSU team. He's very polished and just as fast. To me, he's most likely the next Tyreek Hill. If you're looking for one in this draft class, I'm not saying he'll be that. Tyreek's a once in a lifetime player, but he's the guy that I absolutely love. And stock went up a lot from the combine here. It's been fun looking into these players and starting to research some fantasy drafts, starting to get the early ear to these things. One of the reasons I like to play fantasy drafts now, so where I play on Underdog, it's a $5 league with a $2 million prize, but you're playing against people that aren't that well into it yet. And you can get a lot of value. So, for example, I'm getting Brian Thomas right now in like the 10th or 11th round. If he goes to Kansas City, by the time we actually draft our real teams in August, he'll be, second, third, fourth round pick. You're getting a tremendous value right now. It's a little bit speculative, but when you're playing in these big leagues, this is a great place to be. And also, most people haven't really started to research it all yet, which I'm just at the very beginning stages. I believe literally last week when we did our draft on Friday, I hadn't looked at anything yet. Now, I spent the weekend having some fun looking at what's really coming out with these rookies and really feel, ready to dive into things more. In terms of fantasy football, which we're going to get into here. And I've been one of the a lot of the people that draft this time of year in fantasy football love rookies and tend to overrate them as well. Seeing Marvin Harrison going in the second round, which is ridiculous. If he goes to New England, Arizona, or the Giants, which are the three teams I think he's most likely to go to, that he will not be putting up big numbers in any of those three places. Maybe Arizona, but I doubt it. And so people tend to overreach on rookies and the big name rookies and undervalue the guys they don't know that much about. All right. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I was just gonna make a quick comment, or I was gonna ask you, Greg, with all your research this weekend, I know your guys Malik Neighbors, right? Have you come to your senses and finally admit that Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably going to your Patriots top 3 and that he is the best receiver by far in the draft?
Well, why do you think he is? What do you think is the case for Harrison? If you look number by number, Neighbors' numbers are better in every category than Harrison's numbers.
Harrison was proved to be the best receiver all season with who was his quarterback? And in the season before it was a stacked I guess you can say, he had CJ Stroud,
right,
but that receiver room was really stacked. And he's coming in, and freshmen and sophomores don't produce the way that Marvin Harrison has. It's his speed, the way he runs his routes at his size. He's super athletic. He's going to be a star in the league. He was hands down the best receiver I saw on tape last year.
Yeah.
What does the chat think?
To me, if you look at Harrison, he was on Ohio State for 3 years, right? And didn't dominate really till this year. I think he was there his first year and didn't play much. We'd have to look up his Wikipedia. It's easy and fun to pull those things up. I think he was there 2 years with JSN, and then last year is what I remember of him. And but we can pull it up here and see. And he didn't really dominate. When he had CJ Stroud out there. Granted, maybe it takes you a year to settle in. But I don't, to me, that's another potential red flag. Look, he's solid. First off, he's 6'4", right? He's 6'4", big size receivers could do really awesome. Evans, a great example of this, right? Evans drops more passes, does not run great routes, but he's big and he's fast. And he's got some football knack, and he can lead the league in touchdowns several times with mediocre quarterbacks, right? So Harrison has all that going for him. I think another argument in favor of Harrison that I've heard is that the Big Ten has some of the best defenses. Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan were all probably top 10 this year.
Iowa.
In defense. Iowa. I know Penn State has a corner who is expected to go in the first round. I follow Penn State a lot. He was on Harrison that whole game. And Harrison, he made the plays in that game, but he didn't, he was just short little drag routes that he would catch and run. He didn't totally impress me in that game. But again, that's against a first round pick talent. I think Michigan has their D-backs, their whole defense is rated pretty high as well.
I always got a first round corner, I think, Cooper DeJean, the white guy.
Yeah, so Harrison is putting up good numbers against really good defenses this year. I think bodes for him.
And don't forget, Ohio State probably would have beat Georgia if he didn't get his head ripped off in that game. That changed the whole complexion of that game.
Yeah, that's a good point too. That New Year's game that Ohio State almost pulled out of their ass, the biggest upset over Georgia in a long time. It came down to their kicker and Harrison. He was playing big in that game. big games. He's come up big. I mean, if you think about the Michigan game this year, that was the biggest game of the year this year, and they just kind of got mauled by Michigan. I look at it in my analysis of all this. I think the things that are more come to light to me, JJ McCarthy as a first round pick is crazy. Like if you in the games that they won, Penn State and Ohio State, like they literally just ran the ball the whole time in the second half. McCarthy did not do anything to win those games. I'm really down on him. The more I read about Blake Corum, I like him in the NFL. If I'm picking one of these rookies, I think he's just a great goal line back. If nothing else, he'll be able to get goal line scores his rookie years. I like him from Michigan. The other thing is as I fall in love with Brian Thomas at the combine, because he wasn't on my radar before this, and I already liked Malik Neighbors a lot. I greatly discount Jaden Daniels' numbers with those two receivers. Having two world-class receivers like that can make anybody look good. And I think that's one of the things people forget, how good CeeDee Lamb made Baker Mayfield look and Kyler Murray look. And those guys are good, but they're a little bit overrated because they had, a world-class receivers like that. And they had two of them in LSU. And the defense sucking at LSU also, to me, meant they were in shootouts, meant they had to throw more, had to score more, and really kind of pumped up all of Jaden Daniels' numbers. I really hope the Patriots don't take him. The only thing worse than him would be taking the North Carolina quarterback. I really don't want him. Oh my gosh.
So if I heard you correctly, you said you wanted Joe Alt, or did I miss here? What do you want the Patriots to do with their pick?
Trade it. He wants to trade it back, right?
I would like to, trade down and take Malik Neighbors or Thomas. They need a lot of players. Their defense is not good. If they keep thinking they're gonna draft Harrison and bring in Joe Flacco and make a playoff run and based on your defense, well, your defense is not good. They need a lot of players. I feel like just trade down and accumulate picks. To me, you're still a few years away. Even more picks next year, more players. And then you need 2 more years of sucking, and you can start to look at who's coming out of that quarterback class. Maybe an Arch Manning or somebody like that down the road. That's the path that I look at for New England. I think they're so bad that Harrison's not going to make that big a difference. If they do stay at the pick, I like Joe Alt anchoring the line. I think you just can't go wrong with. To me, he's can't miss. Harrison, I think is a strong prospect to be a pro. I feel like receivers you can get in free agency too. Like I'm not sold on that as a position that you need to draft to build on. And receivers, they tend to want more money and want to change the scenery and just go out to the highest bidder. And once you have I love what Buffalo did. Like once Josh Allen was starting to blossom, they paid Diggs and brought him in. That's how I feel like you win. With free agency and a receiver.
So I feel as though so let's just say for sake of conversation that New England, that they do stay at that third pick, and they do draft Marvin Harrison, or they do draft a receiver or whoever. Let's just say for sake of conversation, like I said, it's Marvin Harrison. Do you see them going out and getting Russell Wilson and giving him the vet minimum? Or do you see them staying with Mac Jones as far as what they do after the draft? Or do you see them getting a quarterback later in the draft and having them develop behind Mac Jones, or having them do the Mahomes treatment where they draft the quarterback, they have a vet in front of them, he plays out his year, and then they go with the rookie that they drafted.
Yeah, so a lot in there, right? First off, I feel like every team should draft a quarterback every year because it's like buying a lottery ticket. If you could find the next Brock Purdy, the next this or that, you can develop them and you can turn most of the time in the draft. rounds 5, 6, and 7, and really even 4, 5, 6, and 7 are not players that start. Your money's made top 3 picks. And Belichick was always very good at like trading 2 5s to move up from 4 to 3. Like he was very good at like getting more 1 through 3s and throwing away those 5, 6, and 7s. And he would accumulate extra 5, 6, and 7s by trading off players. But I feel every team should draft a quarterback because it's a lottery ticket. Kind of like New England did with Garoppolo, right? And Garoppolo, they groomed him. They were able to trade him off for a 2nd-round pick, and they had a decent backup quarterback. And just a side note, I heard a really interesting story on that this year because I know we have 2 49ers fans here, Ernest and Cameron. I don't know if you guys have this story or what you remember of it, but the story I heard Adam Schefter telling this week was that in the 2017 draft, 49ers had 3rd pick. That's the year Mahomes comes out. And that the 49ers didn't even give him a workout. They needed a quarterback at the time. I forget who, it must have been coming off of Alex Smith, or I don't remember who was starting at the time, but they were in market for a quarterback. And Washington's quarterback, Kirk Cousins, was hitting the free agency market that year, and they were pretty sure they were going to be able to get Cousins to come to San Francisco. And then New England offered them Garoppolo for a 2nd, and they wound up taking that. But they didn't even work out Mahomes because they wanted, Cousins, and wound up getting Garoppolo, which I thought was a really interesting. I mean, just think of how, the history of the league could have changed if they take Mahomes in that draft. And I think the guy they took wound up being a total bust, right? I can't even
Solomon
remember.
Thomas, he's with the Jets now.
Solomon Thomas. I mean, he had a lot of promise. He had a lot of off the field issues, and then he ended up going to Washington, and he had a lot of injuries and off the field issues. But yeah, going back to that whole story, because like I said, that once Brock Purdy got to the status that he is now, that came up more. So the part that is a lot of people don't remember is that we had also drafted CJ Beathard at the time, and he was our quarterback for a couple of years. He started when Garoppolo got hurt, and then when we traded him to Jacksonville, we ended up getting a compensatory pick, which was that very last pick, which we ended up to get Brock Purdy. So a lot had to happen for us to get that very last.
Yeah, because
pick.
they drafted CJ Beathard the same year that they drafted Mahomes.
Yep.
Yeah, then what a nice way to kind of wrap up the circle, as they were saying in the story, because that's how Brock Purdy winds up coming to the 49ers. So New England for sure should be drafting a quarterback late. I think every team should draft a quarterback somewhere in rounds 5, 6, or 7 as a lottery ticket, not with any hopes that this player is going to be anything. Maybe it becomes just something you could trade for a future 2nd or 3rd as a developer. Like if a guy goes in and plays as a backup for like 2 or 3 weeks because your starter's hurt and plays good, some team's going to want to give him a shot and they're going to trade you something for him. So that I think is a smart strategy, going back to Ernest's question. So what do the Patriots do at quarterback then? There's what I think would be best for New England, which would be Russell Wilson. He's clearly the best player on the market and at the lowest possible salary, which makes it a no-brainer. But I don't see why Wilson would want to go to New England. Like he's going to choose where he wants to go. He should be wanting to win now, and New England's not built to win now at all.
I mean, even in that situation, I mean, looking at the places where he could go, his best spots could definitely be like, I would say Atlanta, Pittsburgh, New England. If they do draft Marvin Harrison, like that's the thing. Like I don't think he goes there if they don't draft Marvin Harrison. But if they do draft Marvin Harrison, then I could see him going to New England. But like I said, as far as like where he could possibly go, I could really see him going to those 3 places.
Don't forget about Las Vegas.
I see it. I mean, I could see him going to Las Vegas. I would say that's because is Devontae Adams, is he a free agent this year, or is he still on the contract?
No, but
Lillard.
I can see the Jets making an attempt to give up a pick or two to get him out of there.
I mean, but I don't. I mean, unless it would be a way as of he gets traded and then there's a buyout, because I don't see Devontae Adams going to New England. I don't really see him.
Well,
I
no,
think
no, not New England, New York.
oh, New
New
York.
York
Oh yeah, I'm
Jets.
sorry.
Play with Rodgers.
That is possible. That's
Yeah, I don't see anything why the Raiders would want to do that,
Yeah.
unless they're rebuilding. But yeah, I mean, so Devontae Adams. So if we break down Russell Wilson's options, let's go over these. If anybody has any input, and we can put them in the chat. What do you think is his best options? So going to the Raiders, you play with Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs. You get to play Denver twice and get back at them. That's you're also in a division with Kansas City, and San Diego is probably going to be the better. So I don't think that is a win now situation in Oakland, in my opinion. Your next option is Pittsburgh. To me, that's his best situation. Pittsburgh overachieved without a quarterback this past year, making the playoffs. All they really need is a quarterback. I like Pittsburgh's receivers. They got two good running backs. They got a great defense. I like Pittsburgh a lot. The wild card is Atlanta, because Atlanta has the 8th pick. And if they use that on one of these 3 top receivers, they're predicting Atlanta to take Romeo Odunze out of Washington, who is at number 8. So now you got 2 bookend receivers that are at least for high picks. You got Pitts and you got Bijan you can lean on. You got a loaded young offense in Atlanta. To me, that's the second best, but it's a lot of wild cards. A lot of things have to go right. All those guys have to fix their careers.
That would also be the easiest division to play in, to punch your ticket into the playoffs.
Yeah, because if he goes to Pittsburgh, he's got to play Deshaun Watson twice. He's got to play Joe Burrow twice, and he's coming back healthy. And he's got to face Lamar Jackson twice, coming off an MVP season. So
I think at Pittsburgh, they'll think the Pittsburgh fans will start talking Super Bowl if they get Russell Wilson.
Don't forget, Pittsburgh swept their division last year.
They're already beating Baltimore and Cleveland. They split with those guys this past year. So
they swept.
They swept them, yeah.
Yeah, swept them. Even better. So I think that's, if you go to Atlanta, yeah, you can win the division, but then what are you going to do? I think that Atlanta team is too young. Raheem Morris is not proven as a coach. To me, that's like his backup plan. I see, I see the Steelers as being his best fit. I don't know why he would want to go to New England at all. They're a team that's like in transition from losing to winning. If they take Harrison, they'll probably will be in the market to bring in a quarterback and try to win now. I'm hearing that'll be Flacco or Jacoby Jones, which that's going nowhere. To me, Flacco, he hasn't been good for 5 years. He just kind of got on a roll in Cleveland.
You think Flacco's better than Mac Jones?
Oh, Mac Jones for sure will never start again in the NFL. I'll be shocked if he's on the roster.
Zappy.
Zappy should not be playing NFL football either. He's absolutely dreadful.
Jalen Daniels absolutely be playing for the Patriots. The Patriots have great tradition of picking LSU players. Kevin Falk, Jarvis Green. You already got Kayshon Boutte. You don't need Malik Neighbors. You just need Jalen Daniels to get him the football.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels. I don't want him. We'll see. One of the things with if the Patriots draft him, I'll be the next day buying a jersey. I support our guy no matter what. I was wearing the Cam Newton jersey for 2 years when he was on our team looking awful. It was actually I would go to this sports bar in Tampa every week, and it was like a running joke that I would walk in with I didn't have the jersey, but I had a shirt, and I'm like, he's our guy. I gotta rep him. And then it was like the same thing with Mac Jones. I'm like, I got my Mac Jones shirt. I support our guy. He needs our support. Poor Cam Newton, and it just never got any better at all. So I'll be like that. I'll be cheering for Jaden Daniels if we get him, but I just think he's, one good hit away from being done. He's too small, too much of a runner. His receivers made him look good. I'm not convinced he's a winner yet. Right, he hasn't really won anything on a big stage yet. So there's just a lot of question marks to be gambling when you could have Harrison or you can have Joe Alt and just anchor the line for good. You know, and Daniels is going to be running for his life. New England's O-line is terrible. New England's offensive talent is terrible. So, yeah, that Ernest kind of queued me up on that at New England at number 3. And I also think trading down, like I think there's going to be people that are in love with these quarterbacks as well, like the Giants. I'll be shocked if the Giants. I was reading Mel Kiper's mock draft, and he has the Giants taking a receiver. He has them taking Neighbors. And I'm like, why? Like Daniel Jones cannot get the ball downfield. Like, what good is a receiver going to do them at all? That they need a quarterback. I mean, they just gave Daniel Jones a lot of money, and that's Daniel Jones is a great example of what I didn't want to see, or still don't want to see the Bucks do with Baker Mayfield. You just don't want to be stuck with somebody and be in a situation like this Russell Wilson. How dumb is it? I mean, how bad is it got to be that they have to cut Wilson? He's still going to be on the books for like 40 million, right? I mean, that's just a mess there in Denver. It's got to be the ego of Sean Payton.
Blow it up. Trade Simmons, trade Surtain. I'm sure Surtain can maybe get you a first round pick, maybe an early second. But that's what I would do. Just blow it all up. Your best receiver is Cortland Sutton. Maybe if you're lucky, you get a 4th round pick for him, but they don't really have much going on over there.
Yeah, I think someone will take Judy. Like Judy is still a high prospect, even though he sucked last year.
I think especially after everything that happened with Steve Smith last year, I think that's what brought all the attention to him. Jerry Judy's a bust, honestly.
I mean, 2 years ago.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I feel as though as far as Jerry Judy's case, like his case is just like any other skills player's case. Wayne don't have consistency at the quarterback position. Since you've been drafted, he's probably had at least a handful of quarterbacks, probably even more than that play. It's like you can't be a consistent quarterback unless you're somebody like, I can't even say really Mike Williams, because Mike Evans, because Mike Evans has had in his whole career he's probably had. Greg, you said what? He's had 5 quarterbacks in his career.
Mike Evans? Well, I mean, mostly he had Jameis and Brady.
Yeah,
right?
Jameis.
Mike Glennon.
Yeah, Mike Glennon, Tom Brady, James Winston,
Fitzpatrick. I mean, there's the guys
it's Magic.
Fitzmagic, yep.
The guys he's had a whole bunch of quarterbacks, but he's a rare breed where you can have a lot of quarterbacks come in and out and still have 1,000-yard seasons every year. But
here's Judy's numbers. 2 years ago, this is a decent year. This team was really bad. So this was Wilson's first year. Wilson had a really bad year. To me, he brought down the whole team. Judy had 972 and 6 touchdowns. I was
high to have a 1,000-yard season.
Who did?
No, he's not had a 1,000-yard season yet.
Right. So this was his year where he started to show some poise. A lot of people were taking him. He was on my my list of people to look into last year until he got hurt, and right before the season started, and that kind of sabotaged his whole year. I think, he's still getting yards these 2 years, and this has been pretty much a disaster with Russell Wilson these 2 years. To me, someone will for sure take a fly on Judy. He needs a fresh start. You can definitely get a 4th or 5th round pick for him. Put him, on the Chiefs or on one of these teams, with an offense, and he's worth a shot for somebody. I think he's worth a shot late in fantasy rounds too. Like I love guys with upside. Like, Cortland Sutton to me just is what he is, he's always going to have, 700 yards. He did have 10 touchdowns last year, but he's not really going to break out. He doesn't have that ceiling. the way Judy does if we're looking at these guys. So, I mean, if Denver blows it up, they're going to want a quarterback this year, right? What pick does Denver have in this year's draft? They don't even have picks, right? This is their last year still paying for Russell Wilson, though, I think, right? So
No, I think they got a first in the Bradley Chubb trade with the
late
Dolphins.
first, right?
Yeah, and
Dolphins.
the Broncos have been a name that might pick up quarterbacks like J.J. McCarthy or Bo Nix in the first round. They've interviewed those two quarterbacks.
They have the 12th pick.
Yeah,
Their own pick.
I mean, it's a long way. Like I said, like you say, they can get Bo Nix or JJ McCarthy. But I mean, even if they get one of those two, I mean, if they don't get neither one of those two, yeah, they should probably like blow it up. But if they get one of those two, then I feel as though they should keep at least the main guys that they're paying and try to see if they can get something out of everybody else. But yeah, if you could probably either, I would say more like Bo Nix if you're going to keep Jerry Jeudy. If you don't get Bo Nix, then I would trade away Jerry Jeudy because you need somebody that's going to throw the ball downfield. Because Jerry Jeudy, I didn't see him at Alabama. He is a deep ball threat, like no joke. So
Yeah.
That's at Alabama. He hasn't been that deep ball threat consistently in the NFL.
Because he hasn't had a quarterback that's been able to throw the ball downfield that much.
That's a terrible argument, man. You're talking to the guy that watched Houston sports, and we've had DeAndre Hopkins and Andre Johnson put up Hall of Fame careers, and they had Alvin throwing balls to them. I mean, I think if you're the wide receiver that you're supposed to be, if you're that first round pick, it shouldn't matter who the quarterback is. Like you said, Mike Evans. Mike Evans is a great example.
You're telling me Brock Osweiler? Come on, he was great.
It's a
David.
factor. I think it's a factor, but you can't. Judy's got to be a part of this too, right? It's got to be his work ethic, his injuries, his commitment to it all. It's definitely a factor at the quarterback position. But it doesn't excuse the level of bust that he is, right? He's a first-round pick, I think, for them. And he's definitely underperformed to that. But I still think there's enough talent there. He was making big plays at Alabama. There's enough talent there for probably him to get a second or even a third chance.
So at what point do we say that Jerry Jeudy, Ernest and Greg specifically, at what point do we say that Jerry Judy's a bust?
He's a bust right now. He's a bust right now who still has potential. At what point do you consider him completely dead? I mean, completely out of it. I guess when he's completely out of it, when he gives up trying. The potential's there. It doesn't go away. What he did in college is still always going to be there, in my opinion. He's got that potential, and that teams will keep giving him a shot until he decides that he doesn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, I would say for me that's part of it too. Like you said, if he's just not in it no more, and teams don't give him chances, then yeah, like it's wasted talent. I would say on the other hand, coming from the Alabama mentality, like you're gonna keep playing until you can't play no more. Like we see it with Julio Jones. Julio Jones has been in the league God knows how long. Like, and he still gets calls from teams and all that. He's gonna keep playing until he can't play no more. I see the same with Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy's gonna keep playing until he can't play no more. And that's whether, like I said, whether it's mentally or physically. So as long as he's still able to run routes, he's still able to catch passes. Like, I could really see him, any team, even if he gets cut, I could see him, any team picking him up, whether it's in waiver wires or trades or whatever. But if it's not physically or mentally that he's just not in it, or he can't physically play, then in my eyes, he will always be a not a top receiver, but a dependable receiver. I'm gonna go as far as say that. I'm not gonna say best, but I will say dependable.
Yeah, I mean, Denver's been a mess these 2 years. I'm really shocked that they're blowing it up this bad. You know, Sean Payton had to know what he was getting into with Russell Wilson. And, you know, Payton could have chose a lot of spots to go to. He chose this, supposedly he chose because he liked the quarterback here the best. And Wilson had already had a really bad year in Denver. I feel like Denver trusted Peyton to come in and get the most out of Wilson, and then it just got worse from there. And I feel like Sean Payton is on the hook here, and that we got to start looking at him as somebody who maybe just rode Drew Brees's coattails. He gets a lot of credit for Drew Brees when Drew Brees was like a household name in
Well,
college.
Greg, have you heard like the stories about Russ Wilson though? When like Peyton came in and Russell Wilson had his own office, treated like royalty, and Peyton came in and said, "This is bullshit. We're all equal. Get your ass out of that office. We're gonna go to work and we're gonna turn this franchise around." And Russ Wilson allegedly had a big problem with that. So then that's what kind of started this relationship. Allegedly, that's kind of what was been being talked
Yeah.
about last year.
Well, my point to that would be like, that's the situation going in. You know that Wilson has this, has been treated this way getting there. I'm not, and Peyton's right. It's got to be everyone's equal, but you got to have some diplomacy in how you do that. You got to, Peyton can't come, he should have had that conversation with Russ before he got there. And if Russ wasn't going to play along, then he shouldn't have taken the job. For him to take the job and then have to cut Russ and send the team spiraling through this rebuild, to me, that's on Peyton's shoulders and not fair. Not having the hard conversation, in advance of getting there. In the end, Peyton's right. If Russell's doing that shit, that's not cool, not okay. But you gotta make it work. You can't just bully him into that. Is what it seems like Peyton is doing.
Hey, I think that's indicative of the management. The moment that they cut Russ tells you that management may have had a hand in wanting to dictate and said, "Tell Peyton, I need you to be out front on camera, dogging Russ, because we need to get him out of here. This is not working, and then when all blows over, we'll get him out of here."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I think, this could turn out to be one of the worst trades of all time, greatest trade of all time for Seattle, right? With the fleecing they got for Russell Wilson, who was just over the hill. And if management wants to kind of save their reputation with the fans for making that trade, maybe they got to make Russ look bad somehow, right? And kind of run him out of town. And then meanwhile, he starts putting up decent numbers last year. I mean, they had beat Kansas City and were like a 500 team with 6 games to go. And then of course it went downhill and they benched him those last 2 games. So I guess the test will be, where Wilson goes next. Mike Tomlin's not going to put up with any of that stuff if he goes to Pittsburgh. We'll see if Wilson has anything left in the tank.
I think he's smart enough to know that this situation should bring humility. So I think he'll be humble no matter where he goes, whether it's New England, Vegas, Atlanta, Pittsburgh. So I don't foresee that being an issue with Russ. I think he's much smarter than that.
Yeah, I mean, and you can't fight Father Time, right? The bottom line is he's getting older. I was just looking up how old is Russell Wilson. He's let me put it into Google here and just
He's like 34.
Yeah, he's born in 88. So what does that make him? Come on. Here's our Wikipedia here. Yeah, he's 35. He'll be 36 this year. I mean, that's just pushing Father Time. Not everybody's a Brady who can play 10 years past that. 36. How old is Rodgers now?
He's going to be 40 this year.
Wow. Yeah. See, I'm not on the side that Rodgers is going to come back and do much. If you look at what's happened to Russell here, I mean, Russell clearly, he was an MVP candidate his last good year in Seattle, right? And he's just gone downhill. He hit the wall. And I think if he goes somewhere and tanks, I think that makes Peyton look good. Like, hey, look what I got out of him for that year that he was playing here. If he goes somewhere and wins, then he'll be like, they were the problem, right? So I think he's got to take that into consideration, with where he picks to go.
Yes and no, because I think because if he goes to Pittsburgh, I mean, the team's ready made. It's just plug and play with quarterback. I think if he can do just enough to not lose the game and, not have 103 and outs a game, they'll be fine, because it's, the stat is if TJ Watt plays, the Steelers don't lose, give or take.
Yeah, which is exactly how it was in Seattle. That's Russell's specialty, is coming in and playing defense and run the ball. Right. So I think that's a really good fit for him. I like Pittsburgh's receivers. I like their coaching staff. I think that's a really, really good fit for him. And they'll save so much money in terms of salary with him too. And maybe they keep Kenny Pickett, I guess, as the backup. He's still on a rookie contract. And they'll probably lose the other guy. Will hit free agency then, right? What's his name? Heath Miller.
They cut Trubisky. I think Rudolph's still on contract with them. Still under contract with them.
Mason Rudolph. Someone will take a flyer on Mason Rudolph. Someone. I could see him. Getting added into the room in New England or somewhere. He got that team to the playoffs. So let's check in on our game here. The Clippers are up 14, 68-54. Anybody have a take on anything they're seeing in the game? Dame's on the bench right now for the Bucks. Oh no, he's out there with 25 points.
Yeah, Harden's got his guys primed to score, and they just keep missing layups at the basket. It's insane. There must have been like 4 or 5 that I've already seen.
Not missing any more though, David. But you were right at the beginning in the first half. They were missing some bunnies. I'm bitching about the refs in the YouTube chat. The refs have been absolute trash both ways. It's really hard to complain about the NBA because it's just been a trend. And Damian Lillard, this is a homer take. He is not getting the continuation calls like other superstars, and I'm not sure why that is. It is absolutely infuriating how they whistle him, and I don't even know why I should complain, because it's not going to change. But it's evident here tonight. If you watch the rest of the game, just make sure to watch his continuation fouls that gets called against him, because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that Lillard over is likely to hit, since he's almost there in the third.
Lopez needs one more 3, I believe, to hit that 2.5. So that might hit if someone took that.
Yeah. Yeah, the NBA, it's hard. We don't really know what their standards are of what they're
right
to do out there, there's always been another set of rules for the superstars. Why wouldn't Dame be in that category? The league seems to be wanting him to be a superstar.
And it also like Khwai Leonard's getting hammered in this game too, and he doesn't complain, which I love Khwai Leonard. He's just playing.
Watching Lopez complain. He just clearly shoved Leonard out of bounds, and he's like complaining about this call.
Lopez is a complainer.
He just forearm.
Yeah, I know. I'd see that. Another interesting. We all thought Norman Powell would be a factor tonight. It looks like I don't even think he might not. I don't even think he's scored actually. If someone wants to fact check me there,
he's got 2 points.
Yeah, he hasn't been really involved too much. But yeah, to David's point, Harden has been playing very well during this game, and he's just facilitating, he's scoring, he's playing great defense too. And if he keeps that up, this team is going to be a force in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's 16-6, so I'm not sure. What did he have to get to? Was it 9 or 10 on assists to go?
9. It was 8. It was 8.5. So yeah, 9.
8.5. Yeah, so he should be able to get that as long as the game stays close. Could go either way now. 14 points is nothing in the NBA. Paul George is shooting almost 50%. Harden shooting 50%.
Alvin's got his hand up, Greg.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Alvin.
And the Bucks are horrible on the boards tonight, and they're not getting any assists. They're not moving the ball around. They have 9 total assists amongst the starting 5 and the limited bench that they've been using tonight, and that's not going to get it done. They're getting the Clippers have 17-9 advantage with just assists, not to mention the rebounds. So that's contributing to the Bucks' woes tonight.
Yeah, hard to win if you don't hustle or pass the ball. And those two stats are indicative of that. They're just kind of hanging around here. Maybe they'll be able to make some sort of run. I imagine you're, in the crowd at home for Milwaukee for this. You find out last minute Giannis isn't playing, and then the team comes out and just kind of straightforward here. What's Dame arguing about now?
He's arguing that he didn't foul him on the 3-point shot. It looked like he fouled him to me, but I think Dame's gonna get teed up. He's gonna get tossed, I think, because he has a tee. He's been visibly frustrated all night. Let's see here.
Oh, don't.
That's not a foul. That's not a
Going
foul.
out till we make the over.
Right. I don't think that's a foul because is the hand part of the ball right in the NBA?
So they're going to review it, and we'll hear their explanation of this because
if you high five him, it's clean.
Yeah, that's a clean. I think that's clean. That's going to get reversed.
Yeah, there's contact there, but the NBA may look at that differently.
Also, Greg, it is Latin American night in Milwaukee, so I think everyone's okay. Just a little bit okay. They're feeling better if it's Giannis is out there. They're drinking a lot of margaritas, $5 margaritas.
Do they have any Latin American players on the team?
No,
Lopez.
no, they don't. But it's just one of those nights. It's they celebrate it every year. It's a pretty fun game to go to.
Isn't Lopez Spaniard?
Lopez might be. Yeah,
Lopez is probably he has to.
Oh no, yeah. No, he's Spaniard. Yeah, he's not from Latin America.
Yeah.
The Lopez brothers have that commercial now. I thought that's pretty funny. They're not
State
that
Farm.
big a household name. Yeah, for them to get a State Farm commercial was kind of surprising, especially Robin Lopez. Yeah, I saw a real interesting report recently on identical twins in the NBA. There's been 11 sets of identical twins. I don't know if you guys have seen this report. And like compared to like the odds of making the NBA are like, 1 in a million something. So for the brothers to both make it, or for 11 sets of identical twins to make it, is astronomically defying the odds. And so the author is advocating that this just proves so much of the NBA is genetic. And yeah, it's a really interesting book. I'm going to talk more about it as we get more and more into basketball this week. The guy used AI to write this book and to research a lot of really interesting things about the NBA. And the twins was just one of those things. He did kind of a statistical analysis of the height of NBA players and what the probability is if you're 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2". And he found, if you're 7 foot tall, you actually have a 9% chance of making the NBA, which I thought was fat. Like that's a lot. That's high, right? It's like, geez,
the Thompson twins were the first pair of brothers to get drafted in the top 5.
Amen to that.
Yep.
Well, Clay, you mean?
No, not Clay. Their names are Amen and Asar Thompson. They play for the Detroit Pistons and Houston Rockets. They're both rookies this year. Super athletic freaks. I compare them to Jonathan Kuminga type players.
As far as twins, they got drafted this year.
Yeah. I think it was Wemby was 1, Miller was 2, Scoot Henderson was 3, and then the Thompsons were 4 and 5.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing those kids at the draft. I didn't know that much about them, but seeing them there with their parents at the draft. Yeah, so that it'll be interesting. One of the things he writes about in the book, he was able to remove height, kind of adjust for players' performance based on height, and came up with his own stat line of like who the top 10 players are all time adjusted for height. I'll put together the list and share it with you guys if you want to start thinking about, who might be on that. But it was interesting. Jordan was still in the top 10, even at height adjusted. He was top 10, but not number one height adjusted. I think obviously Muggsy Bogues, was incredible, right? For him to have a 10-year NBA career at 5'3", was height adjusted. Stats were better than than even Jordan's. You get into stats like that. I'm like, this guy's inventing new categories that you can come into the sports bar argument and talk up your players. He must be like sick of having the same old, who's better, Kobe or Jordan? And he's like inventing new categories, which I thought was interesting. All right, we're already past 9:30 here. I wanted to do this fantasy football with you guys and just kind of get your take on this. I know we're all fantasy football players, and I thought it'd be fun to break it down into different spots in the draft and kind of analyze them together. And obviously, it's very early here. I just spent the whole weekend quarantined. Actually, everybody in my household has COVID, so I didn't go out now for a whole week. I've been very blessed that I'm not catching it, and but that's why I stayed in all weekend, just kind of researching fantasy football players, getting the jump on this. So I'm up to, in my underdog account, I'm up to 20 teams now at $5. Last year I had 90 plus the 2 that I normally play, so 92 total. I'm not sure what I'll get up to this year at the rate we're going. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to put you into this, we call this, I guess, the one hole, as if you had first pick and now you're on the board for these 2 picks in the fantasy football draft. Last time we did this analysis, which I thought was interesting. This time I'm putting you into this spot. I think you'll find this to be really fun and, really good training too. It's kind of like, in sports, they put you into these situations so that you're prepared for them and have researched, from each situation before we get there. And it's just a fun way for us not to do a full draft every night, but still get to talk a little fantasy every night. So let's go around the horn here. We'll go first to Alvin. And so Alvin, if you were picking here, and these are the guys that were off the board. I'll pull this up. This gives you some idea of who's left if you want to, based on the ADP. The ADP is where the public are taking people. It doesn't mean the public knows what they're doing. A lot of these guys are gone, actually. Some of them are still there. So this is the ADP. So he's gone, he's gone, he's gone. If you had those 2 picks in a row, what would catch your eye, Alvin?
Which 2 picks?
Okay, let me go back here.
Yeah.
So here it is. Yeah. So we finished round 1 and we're at the end of round 2, and now you got the pick at the end of the 2nd round or the start of the 3rd round, or both those picks. You have a pick.
All right. Puka's gone. Okay, hold on 1 second.
It's all right. Yeah, we'll all need it.
I would go Travis Etienne.
Oh, Etienne, I put right here. I should have put his full name.
Oh, wow. Is James Cook gone?
I don't think so. Let's see here.
I'd take James Cook.
All right, cool. We'll put him here, James Cook.
And is Garrett Wilson gone?
Yeah, Garrett Wilson's 1st round.
Okay, let's see here.
Greg, I thought you said Garrett Wilson wasn't a 1st rounder.
Well, this is the ADP.
Oh, is it? Okay.
The public is taking him there. I for sure wouldn't take him in the 1st or 2nd round. I don't see why everyone is so in love with Garrett Wilson. I'd love to look up his stats.
What about DK Metcalf?
Garrett Wilson stats. So Garrett Wilson has never had more than 4 touchdowns in an NFL season. There's plenty of great receivers that have played with awful quarterbacks. We were talking about this earlier. He has had over 1,000 yards both days.
Yes, but he's only played 2 seasons. That's the other thing. He's only played 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Take Amari Cooper if he's not gone.
You want Metcalf or Cooper? Which one?
I'll take Amari Cooper.
Amari Cooper, the ex-Cowboy. Yeah, imagine having Cooper and Lamb still. I mean, those guys, they would light it up. I mean, Amari Cooper has had some really big games. But yeah, Garrett Wilson, to me, like there's nothing here that screams this guy is a superstar in my opinion. He's had 2 solid years with horrible quarterbacking. I'm not convinced his quarterbacking is going to get that much better.
So the thing is, he's had 2,000-yard seasons. He's getting 80+ catches. He almost had 100 last year. That's the difference between somebody like him and Jerry Jeudy, because he's got Zach Wilson throwing him the football, and those are, other than the touchdowns being down, those are amazing numbers. Who doesn't want a 1,000-yard receiver?
Yeah, but people are advocating for him in the first round of the fantasy draft. Like to me, that's nuts. Like, let's look at DJ Moore's stats from last year.
Well, if it's PPR, 95 touches, that's incredible.
DJ Moore had more catches, 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns, right? I mean, there's no rationale. And DJ Moore could get Caleb Williams, which to me that's way better than Rodgers, or Fields. It could get better. Like, I mean, I don't get the Garrett Wilson argument.
Greg, I would be willing to bet you that Rodgers has a better fantasy season this year than Caleb Williams will. I will bet you on that.
Well, Caleb Williams is a rookie. You know,
Okay.
I'm not drafting Caleb Williams for my fantasy football team. Nor am I drafting Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you think Rodgers will be in the top fantasy starting quarterback?
I would say top 12.
Yes.
No way, Rodgers. No way.
I mean, you got to look.
Let's do that. Let's
I think
just
he'll be
make
a
that
top 10
fun. Let's make
quarterback.
our list here. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts were 1 and 2 last year. Right? Rodgers is not probably in my top 15.
I mean, he's arguably the greatest ball thrower ever.
For fantasy. We're talking fantasy.
Top 15 is crazy.
For fantasy for this year. We're talking just fantasy and for this upcoming.
So what was the top 12 last year?
Lamar Jackson's probably in there.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's go to last year's rankings. I like to use Yahoo. Fantasy football.
I mean, it wasn't too long ago. Rodgers was back-to-back MVP in the NFL.
It was a long time ago. That was 3 years ago. In the last 2 years
Not that long.
In the last 2 years, he's not been good. I mean, last year he was hurt. The year before that, he wasn't good in Green Bay. He was not a fantasy starter the year before that.
He wasn't. You're right there, but he didn't have anyone to throw to.
Those receivers look pretty good with Jordan Love throwing to him. It's the same guys. Suddenly Love has 30-something touchdowns. So here's
I think he could make Wilson a double-digit touchdown.
Right.
Okay, so based off of what I'm looking at, Sam Howell was the number 12 quarterback. we don't think that Aaron Rodgers is gonna have a better season than Sam Howell.
Oh boy.
let's I don't know why this is not going as nicely as I wanted it to. So league players. Let's go here. Come on. Players. Okay, player list. Oh, I mean, Sam Howell's not even going to start this year, right? So that's not relevant to this.
Greg, is that your name, the Dirk Digglers? I like that.
No, that is a team in my league. But all right, all players, all offense, quarterback. All right, so we got Allen, Hurts, Dak, Lamar, Jordan Love, Purdy. There's the top six from last year. There's no reason to think Rodgers will break that. And by the way, after this, not only will we look at Rodgers' stats, but let's look at his receivers' stats. Besides Devontae Adams, he's never None of those guys have had great years. No one's had more than 8 touchdowns with him. Christian Watson was the last quarterback to do well with him, the last receiver. So Prescott, Lamar, Jordan, Purdy. I'm taking in fantasy draft this year. I'm taking any of these guys over Rodgers for sure. They all had 30 touchdowns last year.
No argument there.
Right. So there's the top 6. What just happened to our view here?
Probably take Burrow right over him.
Yeah, so let's continue. Burrow's not on last year's list. That's why guys are there. All right, so here we go. Mahomes for sure. Jared Goff 2 years in a row has had 29 touchdowns. I'm willing to give you Goff. I'll put him outside the top 12 also. I really would not take him as my fantasy. But really, the stats are not there. I mean, the last 2 years he's there and he's got great offense behind him, but I'm willing to say he's a maybe. Tua, Tua's loaded. Tua the Tyreek Hill alone.
Yeah. Stroud.
There's a lot of good fantasy quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is why Rodgers is not there. Baker, I'll put Baker. Baker had 28 touchdowns last year. I mean, if Rodgers gets 28 touchdowns, people will think that's good, but really
he won't think that's good.
CJ Stroud. To me, honestly, I don't know if I take CJ Stroud. I don't know. I mean, he won, but fantasy wise, I'm not in love with his fantasy stat line here. He had 23 touchdowns last year.
He also missed 2 games.
Yeah, he did.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good fair point.
And there's no reason that he couldn't return to 2021 season where he threw over 35 touchdowns.
Sam Howell, will put him as out. Trevor Lawrence, to me, Jacksonville, I like Trevor Lawrence as a prospect. I mean, if you look at what he did the year before, I don't know what was wrong with that team this past year. They shot the bed. They brought in Ridley and should have got better. But, Trevor Lawrence the year before had where's his touchdowns here? 25, and he ran a bunch too, usually. This has got rushing touchdown and 5 running. Running counts more. So that's like 30 something touchdowns. Are we agreeing? I mean, Trevor Lawrence has a better offense around him. He's younger than Rodgers. I think he's fair to put in here somewhere.
I would say the Jets
Trevor Lawrence
have better offensive players than the Jacksonville Jaguars.
So you like?
I like Garrett Wilson over.
So you like Rodgers over Trevor Lawrence for your fantasy team?
Yes, not in the dynasty, obviously, but
no. For this year, I don't know. To me, that's debatable.
I mean, you're fine putting him in. I don't mind. I mean, I'll
put CJ Stroud in. You guys talk me into that. We'll put Lawrence out and put CJ Stroud in.
What about Cousins?
I mean, Cousins, yeah, his numbers the last 2 years that he played were awesome. Like, he's not on here because so let's put, to me, Cousins has Jefferson, he's got Addison. I like his.
That's making the assumption that he's coming back to Minnesota, though.
Yeah, that's true. If he leaves, it would be fair game.
He's got Hawkinson too.
I think I just clicked the wrong thing, dang it. How do we get back to where we were? Cue that up too. Justin Herbert, right?
I think Herbert and the Chargers are going to be the dark horse this year with Harbaugh coming in. I think he's going to do
all we're talking here is Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback over these guys.
I think Herbert's better than
you got to take Herbert over Rodgers for sure, right?
Yeah, I think this is the year Herbert's finally that top 5 quarterback that everybody's been saying
he's already had that year. 2 years ago, he had 38 touchdowns. He already was there. He just has underachieved these last 2 years, including last year with an injury. So Herbert's already been there.
It all has to do with this. I can't tell you how many Chargers games I've seen, and I've seen their special teams or their defense. They're like the Lions, except the Lions kind of turn it around. But they find every possible way to lose a game. They'll find a way to lose. Fumble at the goal line. I've seen that countless times with them.
But there's no, you're for sure not taking
calling a
Rodgers over him.
calling a timeout against the Raiders, right when they could have had a tie and both teams go to the playoffs. Instead, they call a timeout, and the Raiders, of course, run for like a 13-yard gain or whatever it is, and then kick the field goal to get in.
Fields is an interesting one.
Justin Fields, I mean, he runs for so many yards and
Yeah.
touchdowns.
He's hit or miss too. He's either real good or real bad.
So let's put Joe Burrow here for sure. To me, Justin Fields are here. I would honestly take Goff over Rodgers. I mean, why would you not take somebody who's had 2 good years in a row versus somebody who has had 2 bad years in a row?
Depends your style. If you're conservative, right, you take Goff. But if you're high risk, high reward, Rodgers' ceiling, I think.
I don't see the ceiling for Rodgers though. What are we really saying at age 40? That's not a good sign for a season.
I'd take Rodgers over Cousins, that's for sure.
All right, so Rodgers, I don't agree, but I would be willing to move him out.
The ceiling for Rodgers is at least 30 TDs.
I don't see that with the Jets. You got to consider how bad the Jets always are.
Didn't they go 7-10 though? That's not horrible.
His worst seasons in his career are only 17. The lowest he's ever been is 17 TDs.
So, do you think the Jets make the playoffs with Rodgers last year if he's not hurt? Right?
Because a lot of those games.
No, I don't think the Jets make the playoffs.
And
even
the whole reason they brought Rodgers in is to be in with that top elite defense. They knew they were going to be in close ball games. They needed quarterback like Rodgers to get the 2-minute drill done because they were going to be put in a lot of those situations. That's what teams like to do when they build their team around running the football in a defensive unit like them.
Yeah, so to me, Trevor Lawrence or Fields, those guys all are younger and have more upside.
There's always my draft strategy in every fantasy. I never grab the quarterback is always the last position. I always grab on my fantasy team. The league is always stacked with quarterbacks, and I've actually found quite good success drafting that way. I mean,
yeah, I think that's a given. It's like a best practice. So, but you're right on.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that drafts Dak in the first round, so I can get him in the 6th because I'm his Dak Prescott. Come on.
You're right, David.
If you look at the stats from
I used to play with the guy who grabbed Tony Romo as his first pick.
Hey, Tony, I'm gonna grab Tony all the time. Stop.
I mean, I'm high on Dak. I like Dak a lot, but yeah, you want to draft your quarterbacks. Kyler Murray. I mean, Kyler Murray.
Yeah, he was hurt last year. I mean, he had the ACL injury. He'll be back this year. He gets a lot of rushing touchdowns.
He's down there in Rodgers. Him and Deshaun, are down there at Rodgers level. Those are the guys. Oh, Anthony Richardson, though. He was swing for the fence.
How can you make that? I mean, it's the same. You're using the same logic as you're saying Rodgers isn't going to be any good with Richardson. He didn't
Richardson was one of the top fantasy quarterbacks before he went down last year, though. I think week 2 or 3, he was getting rushing touchdowns.
He played 3 games. He only finished one
game. Right.
He's going to get himself beat up. He's not going to last in the league the way he played last year. He's going to be Andrew Luck all over
unless
again.
he turns into a pocket passer, which it does not seem like he's going to do that. I like him though. I do like him.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, if he's healthy, I think the Colts win that division, but I don't see him playing all 17 games.
Yeah, there's a hell of a lot of quarterbacks. You're right, Cameron. Just looking at this list, it's crazy.
But someone will take. I mean, Richardson is a swing for the fence pick, right? Because if he does pull together a Lamar Jackson type season, he's an MVP of the league. So I feel like if you want to swing for the fences pick, you don't go with Rodgers. You go with Anthony Richardson, in my opinion. Rodgers is at the bottom of this list of my.
Yeah, that's way too high risk though. That's way too high risk. You might as well draft Minshew while you're at it.
For Richardson, I mean, yeah, granted, we're saying take a quarterback late here, right?
Oh yeah, if you're saying take a quarterback, I thought you were talking about right here at the pick you were talking about.
No, we're overall like comparing for Rodgers here and then relating that to Garrett Wilson, right? So if we're saying maybe your guys are saying for sure we don't have Rodgers in the best case scenario is he's 12th.
Right.
So who would you rather take, Greg? If these were your two quarterbacks as your options in fantasy, if you got to pick one up off the waiver wire, you got Aaron Rodgers or Bryce Young. Who are you taking?
Oh man, it's a shoot. It's easy.
Oh, I mean, Bryce Young is at the bottom of this list, right? As far as teams that even have a starting quarterback. So I would put Rodgers over Bryce Young for sure.
Who's Young throwing to? Nobody, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Adam Thielen. I guess Adam
Yeah.
Thielen had his breakout year. He had a pretty good year in fantasy.
He did.
He's had he's had a good career. That last year he had 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns. He was really hot early and faded, and surprised a lot of people. But I would look for Carolina. That's a good place to look for sleepers for somebody else to develop as a receiver in there. Same thing. I look for them to draft a running back and for that to be a good place for a rookie running back to take that backfield. But in terms of our quarterbacks, yeah, I mean, this is kind of, you guys are putting Rodgers at 12. I put him at 20. But either way, I don't think that bodes well for Garrett Wilson to suddenly emerge. So, I mean, he would have to let's compare Garrett Wilson to Brandon Ayuk. To me, Ayuk's stats are Wilson's ceiling, and Ayuk has already done that for a year, right? So how can you put Wilson ahead of Ayuk if you think Wilson's going to go up to where Ayuk is already? And I'm not even a big Ayuk fan, but if you look at his numbers, it was surprisingly good, right? Let's put him in here. Right. Spelling them wrong. Let's look at
now, but the Bucks are making it a close game.
They are.
Wow.
It's also the under is going to hit. So you're welcome for everyone else.
3-point game here.
Oh, I'm behind. I didn't. Oh, who hit the 3? Bobby Portis. Nice.
The Damian Lillard started off with 3 threes in the first quarter. Hasn't hit one since. I just need him to hit one for my prop to hit.
Don't you need 5, David? Is it 4.5?
It was 3.5.
Okay. Lopez hit a 3, but they didn't count it, so I was mistaken. He needs to hit 2 more to get his over. Greg,
Yeah.
how many years do you think Rodgers got left, in your opinion?
This is it.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would say this, especially if he comes out and sucks or gets hurt again, he'll be forced to hang it up.
He's too egotistical. He wants to play the Packers. That he's not going to retire until after he's beaten the Packers. You know the whole I was in my ayahuasca sunken cavern with no cell phone service.
Darkness retreat.
That was all baloney.
Like fun, honestly.
I like Rodgers. I just think that he's coming back from injuries at that age. It's a lot harder to come back when you get older. And
did Brady what was Brady's most serious injury? When
ACL.
Was it? Did he take when he was 40?
Week 1.
No, when he was the year after they went undefeated, he missed the whole year. He got hurt in the opener the year after that.
But he never had bad injuries when he was at 40s, right? He had a really good line always, and he never got injured, right?
Yeah, he got rid of the ball right away.
Right. That's the thing with Rodgers. He doesn't get rid of the ball right away. He does not. So that's what's going to kill him.
Although that Achilles wasn't even really his fault, right? It was like a nothing play.
Yeah.
That got him. I mean, and Brady, his whole TB12 brand and book, and like he has a whole fitness thing that he sells now about how he was able to stay so pliable. He does
Yeah,
it's like a lot of stuff with like the foam rollers and stuff that got his muscles used to taking the beating, he says.
Well, James Harden certainly is not missing tonight, David. You were right about that.
Well, I need him to get those 3 assists. We were at 5 at the half. He got 1 in the third quarter. I just need 3 assists from him. But like you said, like you saw, there was just so many like pick and rolls. Just I don't know what was going on. You might as well put me out there.
James just got the and one you wanted.
There it is.
Didn't look like too much contact.
They can't. They have no more challenges left. Oof, that's a bad call, I think.
That's the kind of call stars get.
You're right, Greg. It's Doc Rivers working the refs. That's what it's got to be. So, Greg, I saw you were gonna the Celtics Instagram thing. What day is that gonna be? Or is there a Celtics Cavs game this week?
Yeah, tomorrow night, Celtics.
It is tomorrow?
Cavs.
Okay. Cool.
Bad news is Donovan Mitchell's out.
Oh.
And so I don't give him too much chance without him. And Porzingis might be out too, unless they can dominate inside.
Because the Cavs have Mobley back, right? Because he could be a guy that matches up with Porzingis.
Yep, Mobley and Jared Allen.
Oh yeah, Jared Allen. Yeah.
They got 2 good bigs. They could, if Porzingis doesn't play, that they might be able to dominate inside.
Right.
Yeah, so we're gonna try that shout out tomorrow and just experiment with that as a strategy for expanding this. I'm trying to get the guy who actually owns the page to be like to come and then invite all his people to come hang out with him. They like him, right? They follow his posts. And he's a page with 10,000. I don't want to do too much at once. Like, what if we get 50 people from this, right? We got to be prepared for that. So we'll just do one small page. There's another Celtics page that has like 100,000. And these guys are not like, they're just hobby people really. And so they're not like, you can't just message somebody the day before and, be like, hey, can I do this? Right. You got to have built that relationship, and I need to have talked to them in advance and set it all up and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's not a good business to be in. They charge like $10 for a shout out. So, but that also means like once you get, the way this works is, that we do one for $10. If it gets 5 people, okay, now we got to crunch the numbers and scale, right? So we need 50 of these to do 5 for $10 and do 5 people. And now we got 250 people. Not that we want to go that big, but you just got to kind of have an idea of what you're going to get from this type of thing. So we'll see how that works as far as, growing the audience.
Cool.
Scoreboard alert. I know it's not the most beautiful matchup, but Memphis and Brooklyn, it's 103-100 with 20.9 seconds left in the game.
Yeah, Memphis has been playing people tough.
Yeah. That coach is good. I really like is it Decker? He's good. Memphis' coach.
Once they get back to full strength next year, they could be a contender.
Another scoreboard alert. Texas up 9 at half or 8 at half against Baylor in college.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I wouldn't have expected that. Baylor's won 2 in a row, and then they played Houston tough. Houston actually should have lost this last weekend. I hope we punt these last 2 games away. Sheesh. But do
On
not
the
do not
commercial
take
here, let's
Houston.
finish up. Let's finish up our fantasy football here. So if you were in this 2-3 turn here, Alex, who would you take here?
Let me see. It's just a typical PPR league, right?
Yeah.
All right.
We should put up a list.
Travis Kelsey, maybe one of my picks.
Kelsey, yeah, I think he's.
That's what I would probably do right there.
And then Aaron Rod. Just kidding. I would say I would. So running backs there, Breeze. I probably would go receiver because it looks like receivers have gone here. DJ Moore went. Adams went. I know I'm just going off of my mental list here.
Oh yeah, here's the list of who's
Oh,
left here. Debo,
let's see.
Olave, Tank Dell.
I really like Michael Pittman. I do.
Mike Evans.
I would say Mike Evans, yeah. I would say Michael Pittman. I've always liked him. And he was pretty efficient with while he was efficient with Minshew, but it's kind of the opposite, I think. I think he wasn't as efficient with Richardson, but I think Richardson can scramble around the pocket, make things happen, and Pittman can get open. He'll do some damage next year.
Yeah, Pittman's numbers have been without good quarterbacks,
Right.
So if he gets good quarterbacking play, he could go up. What did he do? Was he?
He was hurt a little bit last year too.
That's 2000. I don't know why this isn't backwards. It feels like this is 2000 last year. Last year he had 1,100 yards, right, and 4 touchdowns, 109 catches last year. So that's a good PPR stat line. 4 touchdowns is low, but considering they were playing with Minshew, that's pretty good. I mean, he's had really 3 good years. He seems pretty steady for 1,000 yards and 4 to 6 touchdowns. So
I think he wasn't hurt then, huh? I thought he might have been hurt for one game then with a concussion. I thought he had concussion issues.
That's it. Well, they play 17 now, and he played 16.
Yeah, he was out one game then.
He
Okay.
missed one game. So he seems that's pretty durable too.
That is.
One game a year for three seasons. He seems like a pretty good a pretty steady pick here, like low risk pick here with possible upside. Nice. All right, I'll put him down for you. Cameron, who do you like here?
I'll go with I'll go with what I said last week, right? Debo and DK.
Yeah, that's right. You got Debo and TK here. Metcalf.
God, Debo's so injury prone. He's in my dynasty league. I love him. He's so awesome. It's just he gets injured because he just lays the hammer when he runs the ball. He gets injured though.
If you stack up your bench, then it makes it easier for
that's true. That's true.
Play. That sucks having a stacked team in fantasy, not knowing who to play, and you insert the wrong guys while your bench pops off.
That's why I love best ball. You don't even have to decide. The computer just takes the best of it. So we look at Metcalf here. Last year was actually his worst year in the last 3.
Yep.
And because they had 3 receivers back there and pretty suspect quarterbacking last year. Not this year with Gino. He had 1,300 yards. No, I'm going the wrong direction here. I don't know. I feel like this should be at the top. It's going backwards.
Yeah, that's weird.
There's a 1,000-yard receiver with 8 touchdowns. Sign me up.
Yeah, I was reading 2019. This is last year. Yeah, 8 touchdowns, 1,100 yards was good. The year before that was actually better last year than the year before with Gino.
So can Garrett Wilson match that, David? 1,108 next year.
I mean, he had 12 and 10 touchdowns these 2 years. I mean, Metcalf has a long track record here of being solid. He has right.
I think Wilson will be able to match that with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
Yeah, 8 to 10 touchdowns with 1,000 yards.
I mean, so to me, this is an example. Geno Smith is clearly worse, right, than Rodgers. None of us would take Geno Smith for
Right.
quarterbacking. So Metcalf with bad quarterbacking
Mhm.
is putting up the numbers, right? Whereas with Garrett Wilson, we're giving him the excuse of bad quarterbacking. Metcalf with Geno Smith the last year and a half, and Geno Smith even got benched last year, and he's still putting up the numbers the last 2 years. The last time he played with Russ, he had 12 touchdowns, and the year before that with Russ, 10 touchdowns, 1,300 yards. That was like one of the top receivers in the league, right? So I
Damn,
think
those
Lillard
numbers
is.
could those numbers could be bigger, but Metcalf's big knack in his game is sometimes he drops wide open balls, right?
yeah. Well, and Tyler Lockett's really cut into his production a lot. I think he'll be gone this year. It'll be Metcalf and JSN. And it doesn't seem to matter who's quarterbacking. I'm a little worried if they draft a rookie and he struggles, could that bring Metcalf down somehow? But I think he's in the second round here. He's got a proven ceiling of 12 touchdowns and 1,300 yards. He's done that before. So I like him better than Garrett Wilson, probably.
I mean, just Metcalf is a specimen too. He'll win a jump ball. That's something I think Garrett Wilson, if I'm not correct, is a little shorter, but he's more of a speed guy. But Metcalf, that guy wins a jump ball over anyone.
Yeah, so Garrett Wilson's hoping to aspire to do what Metcalf has done for 3 out of the last 4 years. So I like Metcalf a lot here. I would over Garrett Wilson, even though
That's fair. That's fair.
But and if you look where they're drafting, right? I mean, people are taking Garrett Wilson in the first. Metcalf is going end of second, start of third.
People just love Rodgers. It's all about Rodgers.
Yeah.
Another player that I really like that seems to be falling in every draft board is Alvin Kamara. I mean, he was suspended last year and hurt some games. But what he does, though, is even when the Saints are losing, what Derek Carr does is he dumps the ball off to Alvin Kamara, and all those catches, right? They add up, man. He'll catch get 8-10 catches a game for what, 40 yards, 30, 40 yards.
Yeah, I mean, Kamara's getting up there, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be, this summer, he'll be 29. 28, is it? I think
29, something like that.
Yeah, 95. I think 29.
28.
Really
that's
pushing it.
2 years of football left.
Yeah, that's
for a running back like him.
So last year, like you said, he missed 4 games with the suspension.
Pretty durable otherwise.
And he came in. His stats are not great last year. 5 touchdowns on the ground. And then what did he have receiving? 1 in the air. So 6 total touchdowns. His total yard. I felt like there were some stat lines when he first came back where Derek Carr was throwing like 10 passes a game to him, right? I think that's what Cameron's talking about.
Yeah, no, he was leading the Saints receivers in targets.
Yeah, I remember that. But I don't think it's really, I mean, he has 75 receptions, 86 targets. Yeah, I guess that is a lot for a running back in PPR. 466 here, 694 here. So that's about 1,000 yards. So if he'd have played the full season, he would have had about 1,500 yards. The year before, the year before was considered kind of a bust for him. The 2 years before, right? He had 900 yards on the ground. So he had 2 kind of bust years, and then he was suspended. So I didn't touch him at all last year.
Jesus, he had 16 touchdowns in 2020. That's nuts.
Yeah, that was the year he was.
He had like 5 in one game, that Thanksgiving game.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he was like going number 1 overall this year, 1 or 2. This was the year to have. Everyone was taking Kamara, and then he's been kind of a disappointment since then. This year, and that was his second year. He had 14 touchdowns back here, his second year in the league. Running backs hit the ground running. They don't need much time.
They got a pretty good receiver over there that could break out this year in fantasy. Olave, Chris
Yep.
Olave.
Yeah, I had him quite a bit last year and was a little bit disappointed.
I've given up on Michael Thomas. I always try.
Oh, yeah.
I've been able to
Tie.
steal.
We
all
got a
the
tie
draft.
ball game. Tie ball game in this NBA game.
Yeah, 4 minutes to go, tie game.
Either way, I'm happy with this game for the Bucks. Just going forward, even if they lose without Giannis, it makes me think without Giannis and Middleton, they're winning by 15. I mean,
Watch out. If it's a close game and you got Dame on your squad,
Yeah.
dude, that's some
Now
good
they're
basketball to watch. Dame
now they're
time.
winning. Greg, this is going to be a season turnaround win for the Bucks, and they're going to only be 7 games behind the Celtics then.
Wow.
Wow. The Bucks are just going to be one of those teams
George.
that can beat up on the Clippers while they're banged up, but can't beat the Grizzlies at full strength. And that's the team you don't want to bet on.
39 points for
I'm behind. You give me AJ Green makes a 3. All right, I got to see this here.
39 points for Dame here. Hey, Will's going to come back tomorrow and look like
vintage Dame.
Wow.
Will's
what's
going to look
going on?
like a genius for telling us teams play better when their star players are out.
He is. He
Damian
is.
Lillard's playing though.
Oh my goodness. Who was that hit the deep 3 from?
AJ Green, baby. Northern Iowa.
I never even heard of that guy.
11-0 run. Wow.
They're up 7 now.
Unreal.
That guy barely hit the rim on his shot. Yeah, it looks like the Bucks.
Portis.
Oh man, that place is going to be rocking.
So it looks like Westbrook is a very valuable player.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, it just proves my point about how bad Harden sucks.
Harden's been phenomenal tonight.
That's the reason they're losing, because they've started taking the ball out of Harden's hands. They're letting PG try to run the point. It's like what is going on over here?
He puts up a good stat line and they always lose.
Khwai wasn't. Yeah, I don't know they must be doing a good job on Khwai. It seemed like he was on a little bit of a run in the first half, but
yeah, he's shooting 6 of 18, right? That's terrible.
right.
Oh, that turnover. It's not
That
good.
PG pass was, I don't know what the heck he was thinking.
Good defense from Lopez.
They're not attacking the basket with Harden on that pick and roll as much as they did earlier in the game.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you guys, what do you so Bucks, as a Bucks fan, 2 years ago, I think they lost like 15, 14 games in the season and they ended up losing the second round. Is it a thing? Do you think teams kind of, for lack of a better term, blow their load in the regular season and they're gassed for the playoffs? Like, do you worry about that with Boston, Greg? Because Boston's they could have a historical season this year. Do you worry about them kind of putting all their energy and effort in the regular season and then it kind of falters in the playoffs?
Not in basketball, no. I do.
No.
I think that's what happened to the Bruins last year, but I don't think that's as much a thing in basketball. I do. I mean, you rest your guys, right? I think Boston wants to clinch and rest their guys down the stretch, but how much rest do you really need? You also can prevent injuries, but I don't think you blow your load in the regular season. I mean,
I think that's more of a conversation for like the T-Wolves or the Thunder, because they haven't been there. The Celtics, they've been to the finals just 2 years ago, but I could see a team like the T-Wolves or the Thunder just losing it all of a sudden.
You're just trying to figure out what happened to your Bucks, right? I mean,
last year, yeah, that was oh man. That was bad.
Yeah, I mean, Eric Spoelstra just that team just got hot,
Yeah, I mean, Spoelstra, I think, has the Bucks number, because you look the last time they played too. I don't think the Heat had Butler or Hero. I think they did have Hero, but they didn't have Butler. And I think Bam actually got hurt during the game, and the Heat won by like 30. It was insane.
Wow.
What was crazy was one of those games that the Bucks lost last year. They completely threw it away at the end of the game, trying to inbound the ball, and then deflected off Giannis's hands, and he ran out of bounds for it. and then the Heat ended up getting the ball, and Jimmy Butler he pushed that defender off and laid it in.
Yeah.
The Heat are scary. I think they're trending upward.
Oh, for sure they are in the
Yeah, they're
standing.
10-3 in their last 13.
How many points does Norm have now? 6. Yeah, I was dead wrong on that one.
The game after this one too should be pretty good. We'll see how
There
good
goes Norm right on call.
Thunder are. They've been blowing teams out since the All-Star break.
Who's the Thunder's big guy? Is it just Chet?
Yeah, Chet.
My guy on the Thunder, they're dark. Lou Dort, baby. Lou Dort is the heart and soul of that team.
Yeah, he's a good defender.
He's great. Who do you think runs out of gas then, David? Is it going to be the Wolves or the OKC? Who do you think goes further?
I would bet if I had to choose between the two teams, I would say the T-Wolves probably. I don't trust Karl Anthony Towns and Gobert and Ant-Man the way I would. Like you said, Dort, SGA should probably win MVP. And Chet's nasty. Chet is just absolutely nasty, man. It's he's fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't see it as much running out of gas as just playoff experience.
Sure.
Right. I would expect one of those teams to lose in the first round and the other to lose in the second round.
But I could see it happening if you get a veteran team like the Lakers or the Warriors in that 1-8 matchup to 2-7 matchup. I could see one of those teams folding.
And it seems like NBA history has told us that every dynasty that's happened, they had a young team that had to lose in the playoffs, right? Or have that losing moment. Then they come back stronger or built for that team to beat.
Yeah, so Boston's been knocking on the door for a long time now with this young team.
Bobby Portis with a low-key 28 points. Wow.
Yeah. I was surprised to hear the trade rumors with him.
Yes. A lot of my friends wanted him traded too, and I just don't get it. He's always up for 6-man of the year. It's like him, Norman Powell, and then obviously Skip to my Lou's not in the league anymore. But
jacking up shots, getting away from what got you there.
Yeah, they're pulling away. That's not a good look for the Clippers the last two. They looked sluggish last night too. I mean, I guess you could blame the back-to-back in this.
Yeah, this is a
back-to-back. I thought David was right. I thought maybe they took last night off and would maybe come out with the energy they should have had last night, but neither nights they did.
Seems like Harden was the only one that showed up tonight.
Paul George had a good game.
No, he blew his load at the end there. He was just I don't know what he was doing. Not playing defense, jacking up shots, making bad passes.
Dame had a big game though.
42.
This is like vintage Dame in Portland.
Well, this is a very good win for the Bucks.
Yeah, it is. This is a whole different team than what I saw 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Yeah, about 5 in a row now, right? And so Doc, since the All-Star break.
I think it's a 6 in a row.
6.
6 in a row. Watch out, Celtics. Bucks are heating up.
Greg, the reason why
slow
I hate
down there, young one.
The reason why I hate the Celtics is because I went to the TD Garden 2 years ago for that series, and it was the game where Drew Holiday picked Smart's pocket, and I think it was was it 5 maybe? Game 5, and I just got treated like shit. So I mean, I'm not going to extrapolate to all Boston fans, but
I think, anytime you're in a playoff environment wearing an opposing jersey, you're asking for trouble. I mean, if you guys don't do that at Bucks games, you're like,
we're nice in Wisconsin. Don't you know
the only
that,
place that doesn't do that, I think.
Yeah. Just kidding.
I went to the 2016, the 16-17 NBA playoffs, the Rockets and the Spurs. I was living in San Antonio at the time, so I went to all the home games in San Antonio. And the first game, the Rockets blew out the Spurs, and nobody said a word to me, left me alone. I don't know if y'all remember, but that game 5, there was the big block from Ginobili. They went into overtime. People were in my face. Go back to Houston, pick you. This is our house. I'm like, leave me alone.
Yeah, I think if you're going to road games, you're supposed to enjoy that, being the villain. All right. Well, yeah, the Bucks to win 113-106. We didn't get the over, but I did get
Barely. That almost backdoored. That over almost backdoored.
yeah.
With that Paul George 3 at the end.
Yep. I was sweating.
Nice. All right. Well, another fun game came right down to the end there, and another good night together. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing if this shout outs thing brings us some Boston fans tomorrow. That'll be fun. Wednesday, we got the big UConn Marquette game. And don't forget Saturday, we got Houston, Kansas, and Duke UNC if you guys are around. So have a great rest of your night, and